y'all, and welcome to today's video. I'm going to be sharing with y'all all of the eyeshadow palettes in my collection. We're going to go through them all. We're going to look at them, talk about them a little bit. This is not a declutter. It is just my collection. I will try to link all of the brands down below in the description box. There's going to be a ton of palettes though, so I know I won't be able to link to everything specifically, but I will definitely put as much as I can in the description box. If I have any affiliate codes, it will be there. I will also pop those up on the screen as we talk, but I'm excited. I love doing this video every year, just pulling out my collection and sharing it with y'all. I am super excited. I know this video is going to be a long one though, so let's jump into it. Okay y'all, next up we're going to be talking about Glaminatrix Cosmetics. Now, if I have any affiliate codes with any of these brands, I will pop them on the screen for y'all as we go. Like I said, try to group the brands together. So as I'm going through, if I have a brand, I will have the code on the screen. In the description box, it will tell you what codes I have that are affiliated that will give you a discount with any of these brands. And then I also list my non-affiliated codes in the description box too. So let's talk about Glaminatrix. Some of these were gifted, some of these I did purchase myself. This is their newest palette. This is the Rich Romantic palette. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is the Sugar and Spice. So we have kind of the same packaging as their most recent. This was the one that came before. I really like this packaging. I like just the stamp in here. This one right here, Sugar and Spice. I do have a video with this one. I have a video with this one as well. This is Into the Night. I really like this packaging too. So beautiful, kind of like bright and deep color story, multi-chromes in there, really, really beautiful. Glaminatrix is an Australian based indie brand. So indie brand meaning independently owned brand. Okay, that's what indie brand means. It doesn't mean small brand, it doesn't mean big brand, it means independently owned, not owned by a large parent company. This is the Glamorous palette from the beautiful Glaminatrix. Oh, I just realized I still have this sticker on my mirror. Let me just pull this off so that we can actually see the shadows in the mirror. Oh, that's so satisfying, isn't it? Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful palette. Then Beaute. This was the first palette I ever tried from the brand. I bought this palette. I had an alarm set because I just thought it was so beautiful. And it's all like Australian themed, which I think is really, really cool for the brand. So you see the beautiful color story. You see it's so messy because I love it. And then we have Nearly Natural, this palette right here. And this is their neutral / neutral leaning palette. So we have a really good mix of like neutral and neutral adjacent shades. Beautiful shimmers. Such a great neutral palette. Here is my Adept collection, my Adept Heather Austin palette. Honestly, a dream come true. This palette is filled with multi-chromes and shimmers and beautiful mattes. Of course, I love this. Like, it's so wonderful, like so many wonderful memories. I loved working on this palette, absolutely loved working with Adept. Everything in this palette is just super special to me. The names are all very like personal names to me. I have a whole video explaining it all, showing you this palette, and I'm so happy that Adept brought this palette back. They kept it in stock for over a year and then it was gone and they brought it back, and I'm so thankful that it's around for anyone who wants it. And I just, yeah, it's my baby. Of course, this is a newer one. I have many that are way more beat up than this. My Adept palettes, let's see. We have House of L. This is one of my favorite palettes they've ever done, honestly. I think they did such a good job, like creative with the color story. Let me see if I can get it. These shiny shades can be hard to show y'all. The quality of this one just outstanding, and I really, really like the shadows. The Codan palette, this one is no longer around. I really loved this one. This was in the older format that Adept used to do. Really, really beautiful. The Minka palette is absolutely stunning. This is such a gorgeous color story. There is like a holographic type shade in there. There is beautiful multi-chromes and super duper sparkly shades. Tongue twister. Plain Jane, this is what made me fall in love with the brand. They have, of course, remastered it, put it in their newer format of packaging, all of that, but I really love Plain Jane. The Amanette palette, I also love. This one, I think, is discontinued, or it may still be on their site. If so, I think it is discounted, but I liked this color story. I liked the neutrals. I loved that they brought in some more matte shades, and then Ninhydrin. This one also, to me, is like so good. This is got to be like, I don't know. This has got to be a lot of people's favorite palettes because I do think it's super duper pretty. These are the palettes that Adept has launched this year. So at the time that I'm filming this, I don't have the newest palette, the Area 115 palette. It may get here before this video goes up. I'm really not sure. This video right here that you're watching takes a long time, and not only to prep for, but to film and to edit. So I may have that one by now. There may be a few palettes missing, but here is the Cimmerian Sunset. This one is so gorgeous. I mean, Adept, they're just, you know, they're a favorite for a reason, of course. The La Cienega is like their neutral palette. They have a lot of neutral mattes. This is the only palette I have from them with this many mattes, and I'm happy about that because I really love the Adept matte formula. I also love that we have those 5 multi-chromes down there at the bottom. The Seahorse, this is a palette that I get a lot of use out of. So this is all light to mid-tone pastel-y type multi-chrome shimmer shades, and I reach for this a lot when I want like just a bright, colorful multi-chrome. Some of the shades may look the same in the pan, but they absolutely do not look the same on the eyes. So gorgeous. This, aside from my collaboration palette, of course, is probably my favorite Adept palette. This is the Inspired palette. Oh, you see it. I love that the mattes go from light to dark. I love that we have so many green shades. I love that we have so many multi-chrome shades. I love that there's still variety, even though we have a lot of green. We have some blues. We have some shades that shift differently, and yeah, like I said, of course, my palette is my favorite, but this would be second favorite. Let's get into some Unearthly. Of course, my Resurgence palette. This is the collaboration palette that I did with Unearthly Cosmetics. I absolutely love, of course, combining my love of nature and science and makeup all in one. The names, I have a whole video explaining this palette. It was such like a labor of love, but there was definitely labor involved. Lots of like moving shades around, testing shades, saying this one needs more sparkle, this one needs more this, like just so fun. I had fun naming the shades and coming up with the color story, like just, it was wonderful. It was so wonderful. The names represent like beetles and myths and legends and nature and the things that I love, and this is just one of the palettes that is so like used and abused. I have so many tutorials on my channel with this palette, and I love it. Of course I do. I mean, it's mine. I created it with Unearthly, and just really, yeah. All right, let me be quiet about it. These are the 2 most recent palettes I have from Unearthly. Sorceress Smoke right here. So pretty. And Fall Magic right here. Their Fall Magic Remastered palette. I have more palettes that came into my collection from Unearthly This is the Spaced Out palette from one of their summer boxes. So beautiful. We have Devour, their Halloween launch. This one, oh my gosh, this color story is so good. I love, love, love. This, I was gonna say, maybe this is my new favorite palette from Unearthly. Of course, second to mine, but if I take my collaboration out, I just really I love the color story. I love the quality. This is the Complex palette. I know I bought this palette. I definitely bought this one myself because this was only around for a short time. I'm not sure if it's still in stock, but you can see it's a palette full of multi-chromes and a beautiful metallic silver. This is the Surrender palette. This was their Valentine's Day palette. I was going to say holiday palette, but yeah, Valentine's Day palette from this year. This was such a perfect palette for Valentine's Day, in my opinion. This, you can do a neutral smoky eye. You can add some color. I just think it's soft, romantic, while also still like sultry. You know, I'm into it. The Get Groovy palette from their large summer box. I'm so happy Unearthly gave us a rainbow palette because I wanted one from the brand, honestly. And this is Interesting Rainbow palette. Really beautiful. Oh, I know I said Devour was my favorite, but maybe Don't Be Jelly is. Because this one's so cool too. I think Devour. I don't know. Maybe I should do an Unearthly palette ranking. But this one has beautiful multi-chromes, beautiful mattes. Everything about this palette I absolutely love. This is my Unearthly in the Dark palette. I love this deep dark color story. This was the original Fall Magic palette. They have since redone it, but you can see there's no repeat shades or anything like that. It's not like they just redid this one. They just kind of got rid of Fall Magic and made a new one. We have the Grind palette, the Daily Grind. I don't think this palette got the hype that it deserved because I think it's such a good palette and it was such a good price point as well. The Lure palette, this was my favorite for a long time. This is the first palette I ever purchased from the brand and I bought it. I was like, you know what? I like indie brands. I love mythology. I love this image of Medusa and I thought the color story was super interesting. So I bought this palette and have been in love with Unearthly ever since, honestly. I still love the color story. This is still one of my favorite palettes from them ever. I think within a 9-pan, they gave us interesting shades and I think there's so many different looks I can create with this palette. This is the original Don't Be Jelly. Again, they didn't really remake this palette so much as they just got rid of this one and kept the name. But this was an all multi-chrome palette. Really, really beautiful. And then, what is this? Oh, Dead of Night. Dead of Night. Really beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cool tone colors. I have this here, the Hauntingly Glamorous palette. This was a collaboration with Sydney Nicole. And if you didn't know, Unearthly Cosmetics used to be named Alien Cosmetics. So some of the palettes that you see that are older do have Alien Cosmetics, but they just rebranded, renamed, and they are now Unearthly. So this is Sydney Nicole's palette. This is stunning. This palette is mostly mattes and I think Sydney Nicole killed it. There are two like shimmer duochrome type shades up top. The rest are matte shadows. Absolutely beautiful. The All I Ever Wanted palettes. I had to buy this one. I remember seeing this one on the site and being like, give me that palette of all duochrome, multichrome, sparkly shades. Must have. And then they had All I Ever Wanted Volume 2. And I love this one as well. We've got different tones in this one. These types of palettes I love for reaching for like inner corner highlight or shimmers for the lids or something like that. Vitality, I'm not sure if this one's making a comeback or not actually, but I really hope it does. This, before the Get Groovy rainbow palette, this was the only rainbow-esque type palette that Unearthly had done. Not really a true rainbow because there's no red, of course, but it's the vibe, you know, it's the vibe, and the shadows are great, and I love the small pans. These palettes were exclusive to the Halloween mystery boxes, either last year or the year before. I can't remember exactly, but we have the Creepy Crawly palette, we have the Chilling palette, and we have the Thirst palette. I love all of these. Next up, I have Strawberry Milkshake. This is another one from Unearthly that I was like, oh wow, like that's a cool color story. This is Strawberry Milkshake, right? We have the strawberry colors, we have the reds and greens for that, and then we have the white milky shades, and then once it's all blended together, you have the pink tones. I really like it, and then they threw us a pop of lavender. I thought that was genius. The Sleepover palette, I really love. I'll also say, like, I just love the aesthetic of Unearthly. I think it's so cool. But this Sleepover palette, this is a romantic palette. I want to say this was a Valentine's Day palette last year or the year before maybe, but I love it. So beautiful. These now that you're seeing are all a little bit older from Unearthly. So this is the Bunnies palette, really beautiful. They're pastels. Then Leather and Lace is like their neutral palette. Before Sorceress Smoke, this was kind of the only neutral leaning palette, and I would say this is neutral. I know the people who only wear brown are like, wait, what? How is this neutral? I just love it. The olive tones are muted but still intense. The purpley mauves and the browns are so rich and warm. I really, really love. This is the, this is an all matte palette. This was a Capricorn palette. So all matte shades. There are 2 matte with sparkle shades, but I really like this one. And then we have the Witching Hour palette. You can see this is definitely one of the older ones because this was when it was still alien, and I liked this color story too. I look at this and I see the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus. I think it fits that so well, and I just really enjoy it. I think it's a great color story. And this was a favorite from the brand for a while. This is their Not Normal palette, and first of all, I want to be them. Like, they look so cool. And I love, like, listen, green is my favorite color. You throw in some green in a palette and I'm like, ooh, ah. I love the combination of green and purple. So that got me. And then we have some neutral shades in there too. I mean, what more could I ask for? I don't know. These palettes from Unearthly stay where I can see them because they're all works of art. These are no longer made, no longer available. These, I can't express how much I love them. That's why they sit on display. This one being one of the most prominent. So this is Warms My Blood. This was my favorite palette of the year, honestly. I love the color story. I love the quality. I thought it was just amazing. I keep them in their protective sleeve because, like I said, it's art to me. This is 1964. Beautiful, beautiful, bright color story. Then we have the Weirdos palette. I would love to see another craft inspired palette. Again, super, super cool. And last but not least, so strange, Be Perfect Clientele palette with Ja MUA. This palette, so pretty. I bought this. This is an older palette. This one has been around for quite a while. I enjoy it. You know, I don't have to review everything. Why am I giving reviews? This video is going to be forever long. This is the original Be Perfect Carnival palette, the first one they did. This is one of the first eyeshadow palettes that I got that just, I really loved playing with the saturated colors. I had a great time with it. It was so fun because the quality in here was just amazing. Now, I've loved color forever, but this one definitely made like colorful shadows easier for me. And we have the Interstellar palette here. This was the most recent Carnival collaboration with Stacy and Be Perfect. I think I have all of them except the ones that they did where it's just like the favorite shades. I think there's like an all-star or a remastered or something. But the XO Pro, I believe this was the second launch. And after loving the first one so much, I knew I had to buy this. The quality, so good. Then the Antidote palette, maybe, no, this was the year before last, right? So this was color in earthy tones, which I really like. I mean, massive. These palettes are massive. So many shades. Do we need all these shades? Apparently I do. This one I loved too. The Love Tahiti. Like, I set an alarm. I remember the website crashed. I didn't get half of the things in my order. Like, it was a time getting this palette, but the quality is amazing. Next, I've got my Ace Beaute palettes. I used to have more. I know that they have reformulated, and I did get rid of my older ones in the older formula. I liked them, but I do think this new formula is pretty special. So this is the Floor palette. This is the Cala palette. These palettes launched this year. The quality of the shadows is great, but I don't like these long pans. There's something about it I don't feel like is as easy as different pan shapes as far as getting my brush in there, really picking up shadow on my brush. But I do have a video with all 4 of these palettes. I also have a video, Ace Beaute. These are over a year old now, I think, because I want to say maybe these launched on Thanksgiving last year. Here, sometimes this like shiny packaging is not the easiest to show on camera, especially like this when I'm trying to show you a bunch of palettes all at once. Like, the light wants to hit on that shiny packaging. But these palettes right here, the Aura and the Envy, probably my favorites from the brand. I just thought the color stories were so nice, the formulas so beautiful, and I really loved the Palette-Opoly. So the other palettes were sent to me. This one I did purchase myself. There's no way I'm going to be able to keep up with that, like telling you what was purchased, what was sent over this whole video. Yeah, I do have videos on a lot of these things, so if you're curious, I'll probably reference it when I'm doing tutorials and swatches and stuff of these palettes. But this is Palette-Opoly. I bought this palette and I really enjoyed it. This was the first palette I bought from Ace Beaute in their new formula, and I was just like, oh, they're on to something, because the quality of this one is fabulous. Let's talk about Oden's Eye. We will actually start off with the palettes that have launched this year. This is the Jewels and Gems palette from Oden's Eye. So we have these beautiful, beautiful shades, very kind of muted colors, colorful, yes, but I feel like even if you like neutrals, meaning browns, you may also like this. This could be a good palette to dip your toe into color. My personal favorite, the Stone and Rock palette, because why? It's green, my favorite color. So we have these beautiful green tones, but we also have these gorgeous neutral shades. Really, really beautiful. I don't want to say these blend themselves because I know that that is not a thing, but if they could, they would, because they're that easy to work with. We also have the Hey Reindeer palette. So these are the 2 holiday releases for this year. We have this palette right here. very cool, very light. We do, of course, have some deep shades, but overall, the Oden's Eye palettes for holiday this year leaned lighter than the palettes they did last year, and of course, I will pull those out in a minute. This is the Snow Dream palette. Beautiful. Like, I enjoyed the looks that I created with these so much. I was actually even a little surprised myself at how much I enjoyed these, because I know I love the Oden's Eye formula, but I mean, those palettes, I just really like the color story. So let's talk about their collaboration palettes just for this year. I'll go ahead and show you actually. Last year, my friend Angie and Yella Kanikvis did have a collaboration with them. So here is her Hella palette. This again launched in 2022. Beautiful. Amazing. Yes, I do have one in pristine condition, because how could I not? We actually went to Cancun and celebrated the launch. It was so exciting. And so this year she collaborated with them on 2 more palettes. So we have the Little Ghost palette, which is this beautiful purpley blue color story. But then of course we do have those beautiful warm tones down at the bottom. Whoops. And then this one is the Trick or Treat palette. This one has what I would consider to be like more traditional fall colors, but with a fun vibrancy to them. Beautiful, beautiful shades, gorgeous. I mean, Angie is so incredibly talented, and I know she loves Oden's Eye, so I expect nothing but amazing when she when she creates something. So these palettes also, okay, I have got to meet all 3 of these beautiful creators. Amanda, I cannot wait to see her again. I'm actually going to see her soon, like very soon. I'm going to see her in December. I'm not sure, like I said, when this video is going up, but absolutely love her. We have so much in common, and how beautiful is her palette. When I saw this palette, immediately I was like, people are going to freak out. They are going to love that. This is such a gorgeous color story, and it is so Amanda. If I did not know who this palette was with, if I didn't see the cover, you just put these shadows out of packaging on a table and you told me, guess what creator this is, I would say makeup just for fun. It's so her. I love it. And look how beautiful she is on the front. Lauren May Beauty. I have watched her channel for years, and I got to meet her in May. She is so cool, so beautiful, so talented, and also just like a really, really nice person. I was so excited to meet her. Her color story is so fun. Like, this is fun to me. I love how it's almost in quads. You have a kind of blue quad, you have a more neutral adjacent quad, and then we have the yellow and pink that can go with either. Of course you can mix all the shades together, but I do think it was very thoughtfully laid out, and I just really enjoy it. Again, look at that packaging. Look at Lauren, gorgeous. And then of course Betty Jean, love her. I've got to hang out with her a couple of times now. Got to meet her husband, she got to meet my husband and my son, and just really, really love her. She's such a sweet person. She's so fun, easy to talk to. Like, I can't wait till I get to meet up with her again, hopefully soon. If not, in spring of next year. I know I'm definitely gonna see her. But look at this fun color story. Like, I love the vibrant tones. I love that we have these coordinating mattes and shimmers. I think that makes it very approachable and easy to work with. And yeah, super excited. But I'm gonna grab the palettes from last year. We have more collabs to talk about. More Oden's Eye. This is a collab with Judy. This is the Red Dragon palette. Amazing, amazing palette. She did a neutral palette with a pop of red and burgundy, and then that jade color, the green. I just love it. But this is what I love about neutrals: different textures, different finishes, a little multi-chrome action, and shades that are just beautiful to work with. Then Tina from the Fancy Face, oh, she did such a beautiful job. I love hummingbirds, so I loved this palette. I thought this was absolutely gorgeous, and a color story that I just feel like is so perfect. Look at all these shimmer shades. I love that she did more shimmers than mattes. I think it works so beautifully together. These are some of the palettes that are like so important to me. Sounds weird, but some of my prized possessions in my makeup collection will say. The Giant Wolves palette from Annette. This is beautiful. This is a dark, more grungy color story. I love the multi-chrome she chose and the pops of color. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. Then we have the Saga of Freya collection. So, such a fun color story. I like that these kind of looked like books. This was the Saga of Freya's Saga palette. So this one is like a book that has pages. So this was really fun. I really like these formulas from Oden's Eye, but I do think that they are also a brand that has continued to keep up with the times, and they just get better and better. This one is the Tears of Freya palette. Did I say the other one is the cat with the golden carriage? Yeah, I really, really enjoyed these. I loved the inspiration of Freya. These Christmas palettes, I'm so happy Oden's Eye bought these back. This is the Christmas Eve palette. Oh, babe, it's gorgeous. What can I say? It speaks for itself. It doesn't need me to say anything for it because it is gorgeous. This is the Merry Christmas palette. I keep them in the sleeves because I do think that they are so incredibly beautiful. This one, don't even play with me. That Green to Peak Duochrome, multi-chrome type shade up top. I'm obsessed. The quality is amazing. These, let me look at these. What do I have here? Okay, these are some of Oden's Eye older palettes. I definitely think they have improved, but at the time, these were great. Now, I do think the formula that they have is better than this, but I really enjoyed this one. This is the Solmon. This is the Freya palette. How pretty is that? And then we have the Alva 2. I want to say, oh yeah, there we go. Isn't that beautiful? I was going to say this is the first palette I ever bought from the brand, but I believe it's actually this one. I think it was the Alva that launched that I was like, ooh, I have to try that. If I remember correctly, Alva is like a sprite or a fairy of some kind, maybe like an elf. I can't remember exactly, but I really fell in love with these. And then the Norns. So this is the newer version. I was so happy that Oden's Eye took a color story that they had. So this is the Norns. Let me see. Okay, so this palette was sent to me when it was new. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Like I said, though, they have improved their formula. So when they came out with the updated version in their newer formula, I went right onto the website and I bought the palette for my happy self because I love the color story and I wanted it in their new and improved formula. So that's why I have two of those. These are their mini palettes. And let's talk about these because I actually have 3 different collections here of minis. So this we have, whoops, there we go. This is the Alva Sky. Isn't that pretty? Mostly shimmer palette. And then we have the Alva Ocean, more oceany tones. Again, mostly shimmer shades. And then we have the Forest. I like these light, pretty tones. Very beautiful. But the formula started to improve even more with these. So this is the Scud palette. Forgive my accent, please. This is an all shimmer, really beautiful, beautiful palette. And then we have Verdandi. Beautiful, kind of like warm with some neutral shades. And then Erd, my personal favorite. One of my favorite mini palettes, honestly, because I love the deep tones it has. I love the greens. I think this one is really good. I do have my single shadows. Let me show you. Again, I know this isn't a palette. This is a collection of singles that I just love and I keep with my palettes because I have them in Oden's Eye magnetic palettes. So those are all the multi-chromes, and then we get into the shimmery shades right here. This one is an incomplete palette. This one, I actually just used these recently. If you watch my videos, you will have seen me use those recently. And then the Salon 2. This is another one that I think is so amazing for the brand. I love the packaging. But look at the color story. I actually used this with some of those singles. I think the quality in this palette is so gorgeous. I love the color story. I love everything about it. Right, Melt Cosmetics time. Let's start with these, the Beetlejuice collaboration palettes. Again, I don't keep everything in a box, but these I love. Okay, I love them. The Recently Deceased palette from Melt. Love the Waiting Room right here. I like that these were like big and they were in this acrylic packaging, something really different from Melt. Whoop. And it just I loved everything about these. I thought it was so cool. The embossings on the pan, like I said, I just enjoyed the color stories. I enjoyed seeing Melt do something a bit different from them. I won't go on and on about it though, because clearly I love them. Let's talk about the palettes that launched this year from Melt. The Electrip palette right here. Really cool color story. Really kind of like, I don't know, different for Melt. Almost like a mashup of some of their other palettes. No dupes or anything, but I like this palette. Now, their release with Nightmare Before Christmas, the Halloween Town and the Christmas Town, these are great. This is the high quality that I expect from Melt. So Christmas Town, I do have a video with these if you want to see, but we have Jack being Santa there. We have the really cool Christmas Town color story. They knocked it out of the park with this. Every shadow in here, I thought the quality was the standard I expect from Melt. And then for Halloween Town, we have Oogie Boogie with his little bad self getting down right there. And then another gorgeous color story. I really like the colors they chose for Halloween Town and for Christmas Town. Again, every single one of these shades, the quality is beautiful, and I just so happy with my purchase. I have the 420 palette, really pretty. Let's see. These palettes from Melt weren't my absolute favorite. I did really like these. Like, there's nothing wrong with them, but they didn't have that certain something that I like from Melt. This is the Air palette. I believe, yeah, these are the Bad Zodiac is what they're called. This is the Fire palette. Then we have Earth, this one probably being my favorite. Of course, I love greens, so are we surprised? And then we have the Water palette. I don't know, they were just kind of monochromatic. They're very nice, but they're not my favorite Melt palettes by any means. This Brunette palette, this is a great neutral palette from Melt. If you're looking for shades like this, I really enjoyed this one. A lot of people did not like Mary Jane. I absolutely loved it. This is one of my favorite like cool tone neutral palettes. I really like the textures in here. I think you kind of have to like shadows with some texture and a little flake to them to like this one. But I really like Melt, so I'm not surprised I liked that one. The Blueprint palette, I enjoyed this one as well. I really like Melt, so I need to quit saying how much I like it. Smoke Sessions right here. This was their holiday release last year, I think, or was it the year before? But this one, let's see, this was the Amore Mariposas, so Love and Butterflies palette. This was cool to see from Melt. It was different. They don't have other palettes like this, so I'm really happy I have this one. And then, of course, the, let's see, Vida y Muerte palette for Las de la Muerta, which I really love. Like, this is so beautiful. And then, of course, the Vida palette being more bright shades. I have my original Gemini that I purchased from the brand, and then when they kind of reworked it and gave it new packaging and brought it back, I bought the newer one. So Gemini, this palette has been through it, okay? It's been traveling with me. It's a little damaged because of that. It's been on multiple vacations. Then This is the kind of updated version that they launched when they launched Gemini 2, which is the more like rosy tones with those grungy greens. I love Melt. I don't buy every palette they put out, but I do buy a lot of their palettes. Okay, let's talk about GlamLite Friday the 13th. We'll start with this one. This is a palette that they launched this year. This has got to be one of my favorites from GlamLite. I love the color story. I think it's so beautiful. Camp Crystal Lake. We have the Frosted Flakes palettes. I've been filming way too long. Beautiful color story. This is amazing quality from GlamLite. I really love that one. We have both of the Icy palettes. So monochromatic red palette. Then I have the blue Icy palette. So this is a monochromatic blue palette. Oh, so many GlamLite palettes. Can you tell this is one of my favorites? I love the Scooby-Doo collection. Honestly, these may be my absolute favorites that GlamLite has ever done. This one as well. I really love these shades. We have, here, let me stack these up a little bit better. We have the Berrylicious palette, a Strawberry Shortcake. I just thought this was so cute. I love a color story like this. We have the Tin Pan Michaela Pot 2 palette. Really beautiful. I had to order that one when it launched because I just thought it was so gorgeous. Here, while we're talking about those collabs, let me go ahead and pull these out. So this was her first palette. This, beautiful. I really liked this color story from GlamLite. I think they did a great job together. This one was her Pot 2 big palette. I really like that there was an option for a big palette or a small palette. In case you didn't like large palettes, you could get the smaller one. So yeah, these are beautiful. This is also one of my favorite pastel palettes. This may have been my first time trying GlamLite. I can't remember exactly, but really beautiful mix of pastels and some more vibrant poppy shades. The Barbie palette. Oh, this was so cool. So this launched even before the Barbie movie. I think this launched last year during the summer. I may be incorrect about that. But this is the Dirty Martini palette from GlamLite. This is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. They did a great job with this one in that it's not totally monochromatic. You do have some neutral shades in there and some like different tones of green. This is one of my favorite neutral palettes of all time. The GlamLite Chocolate Martini palette. I love that we have a mix of neutral tones, mostly warm shades, but then we do have some unexpected neutral shades as well. The Wine palette, a beautiful purple palette. If you're looking for some purple shades, they have some cool purples, some more warm purples, really, really beautiful. And then the Margarita palette is actually some really vibrant shades. Really, really pretty. Like GlamLite, their quality is so good. Okay, we've got more GlamLite. This is some of the releases from this year, along with that Friday the 13th that we saw earlier. So this is their Hershey's Milk Chocolate palette. And then the Cookies and Cream is one that really surprised me. I didn't expect to love this one as much as I did, but I think this one is so good from the brand. The Chucky palette, I love. This was their Valentine's Day release, Crazy in Love, and I thought this was genius for Valentine's Day because it's a fun twist. It mixes Valentine's Day and horror. I know that this color story is one I like a lot. I like the grays mixed with the reds. Gray isn't my absolute favorite color eyeshadow, so pairing it with these shades make it very fun for me, and I like the formula of this a lot as well. I have both of the Nightmare on Elm Street palettes. Freddy Krueger is his name, right? So we have this one, the Dream Master, that is more red. Oh, it's so pretty, like, oh, I love. And then one that is green. I don't know. This one may be my new favorite GlamLite. I don't know. How do I pick favorites? Honestly, God, that one's gorgeous though. Both of these are gorgeous. This, I love Ghostface. I love the Scream movies so much. It's like a comfort movie for me. So when I saw they were collabing with Ghostface, I was curious because I'm like, okay, Ghostface doesn't have, he doesn't have any color, but they managed to make a palette that is cool tone, but also fun. We have a more navy shade, a more purple leaning shade, some shimmers that are gray, but that kind of shift to other colors or have different reflex. I think they killed it with this one. I keep saying like, no, this one's my favorite, but honestly, this Rick and Morty palette is an unexpected favorite. Like, I knew it would be the good GlamLite formula, but I was thinking like, oh, you know, I don't know. But it's like, God, it's got those beautiful tones, like almost neon-y tones and beautiful shimmers. And it goes from really light to really dark, which is very special from GlamLite. So definitely an unexpected favorite. This Scooby-Doo palette, I had to order this. I loved the first Scooby-Doo collab so much. And I was like, okay, I'm not missing this one. I need it. We have beautiful mattes, beautiful shimmers, a row for each of the characters. I thought this was a great release from GlamLite, honestly, and I'm always excited to see what GlamLite is going to do next. Okay, Martine Cosmetics. This is their Diner palette. I like Martine Cosmetics. I think they have consistently good matte formula, consistently good shimmer formula. Sometimes they throw in some duochromes. I think they're really nice. I thought this was a pretty color story. This one, fun as well. They like doing this big kind of box style packaging. Martine Cosmetics is a indie brand. Really, really like them. Started by a content creator, so you know we love that. And they're available at Beauty Bay, so super cool they're available at such a large retailer. This was their holiday palette from last year. Ooh, yeah, I really liked this color story. They do a lot of beautiful embossing on the pan, but this 669 palette is the first palette I tried from the brand, and I really like it. I thought it was a really nice palette. I do think that their formulas have kept up with the times. They've gotten just better and better, but again, they have that nice, consistent shimmer formula and matte formula. These three mini palettes launched earlier this year, and I was happy to see kind of a different format for the brand. So we have this one that was kind of warm neutrals. Then we had a more pinky color story. This one was my personal favorite. And then we also had the cool tone palette right here. Here is their like Halloween launch for the year, I guess. I thought it was super fun. They did like a shark attack, shark theme, Jaws inspired collection. Very, very blue. This one I like. This packaging is so sleek. You see like it's made like a credit card, and we have that beautiful like green color story that I personally really enjoy. And then this one was really good too. Their Neon Nitro Speed collection. This one and the Moolah were probably my favorites from the brand. I really like them the most. I like this fun bright color story too. I think it's fun and cool, and it was something different from the brand. It's time for Blend Bunny. I love Blend Bunny. Their quality is amazing. I always know I'm gonna enjoy the quality of their palettes, and I'm excited to see what they are coming up with. All Done Up is beautiful. This is one of my favorites from them. I really like this color story. I think the shades in here are super beautiful. Let me make sure you can see the goodness of this palette. This is the Blends palette. I actually bought the Surge palette from them first, and after falling in love with the brand, I had to go back and buy their first palette. So the first palette I bought from them was Surge. This one right here, the neons. They pulled me in, y'all. They pulled me in, y'all. So after falling in love with that palette, so happy with my purchase, I decided to go in and buy the Blends palette. This was the first palette they ever launched. This is their all matte rainbow palette. Amazing quality, amazing. And I believe the rest of Blend Bunny, they sent to me. I cannot remember if I bought Primal or they sent it to me. But this, beautiful. I don't think they have this one anymore, sadly, but it's stunning. Like, I love the bright shades. I love the deep shades. We have the Dollhouse. Again, beautiful, beautiful quality. Blend Bunny, all of their quality is so good, and I really like that we had extra shimmery shades in here. And then we will get into the palettes from Blend Bunny from this year. So the most recent palette that they launched is the Sickly Sweet. They've been teasing that they're working on something else though, so if that has been shown, announced after I filmed this video, you know, of course, I probably have a video on it. I love Blend Bunny so much. So this is Sickly Sweet. They also did a quad, the Trove quad. This is just multi-chromes, and it's so pretty. I really like that they put these separately. So if you didn't want to pay the high price of multi-chromes, you didn't have to with their palette. You could buy them separately if you wanted or skip them. I really like that. This, another one of my favorites from the brand, honestly, this is the Lure palette, and I just like this color story. It's a me type of color story. I love the mermaid theme. And the Sugar and Grunge palette. Blend Bunny, every time I pick up one of their palettes, I know I'm gonna like my look. I know the shadows are gonna perform well because they're just consistent. They're very consistent. This is the Forget Me Not palette. This is kind of a face and eye palette, a little different for Blend Bunny, but it's mostly cooler in tone. But this is, from my understanding, geared towards like bridal makeup artists, but of course anyone can use it, and it's really Next up, we've got Ensley Rain. The first palette I ever purchased from them was their Midwinter Dream. This is a collaboration with Brittany Huffman, and it's beautiful. They did a great job together. They made magic, and I really was happy with my purchase. I think this color story is gorgeous, and again, they just did a great job. After that, let me show you the other collaboration. This is with Shifty Shadow. So this is the Crystal Skies palette. Look at this. This is so pretty. And I love that we have so many mattes and we have those beautiful shimmer shades. I think my current personal favorite is the Strawberry Moon palette. I really, really like this. I think the quality in here, like, it just blew me away. The color story is right up my alley. We have light shades, we have dark shades, we have lots of shimmers, we have like a hollow chrome in there. Love. And then the Harvest Moon was their palette for fall. Again, super beautiful. Look at that. It's so dark and deep, but we have these gorgeous like multi-chromes and shimmers and deep dark mattes. Also the Lands of Enchantment. So this is their newest release. I uploaded a video on this recently for looks using this beautiful palette. I love that we have pastels and jewel tones. We have multi-chromes, hollow chromes, shimmers, like everything. These are truly beautiful shades. I absolutely love this palette. I almost forgot to show you this one from Ensley Rain. This is their Twisted Tea Party collection. So, well, collection. It was a full collection. This is the palette from the collection. So look at how beautiful that is. I really like these shadows. I really like the artwork. I wanted to show you the artwork on this. So the front, and then we have this on the inside, but beautiful color story. Here we have all of my Natasha Denona mini palettes. This is the newest one, okay? And then this is probably my most used one, the mini Xenon. I think it just makes, a beautiful companion palette. I can use it to deepen things up. I really like the mini palettes from Natasha Denona. I buy most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. Anytime Natasha Denona releases something, I'm like, ooh, I think I need that. So yeah, I really like my mini collection, but this one is the newest one right here. Okay, these are Natasha Denona palettes that have launched this year. This is the Xenon palette. I recently reviewed this one. I do have a video for sure up on all of these palettes. This is the I Need a Nude palette. This one, really beautiful. I like Natasha Denona's formulas. I just think she does such a great job. This is the Yucca palette or Yucca palette. I just really, really, really love this color story. I do have a warm olive leaning skin tone, and I like neutrals and color, and I feel like this palette has it all. And I'll never tell you to buy anything, but I will say, if you have olive skin, maybe, you know, I love this one. I love this one. This is the Love Face palette. So I'm not going to show you like the face palettes, of course. That'll be a separate video where I do like blushes and highlights and stuff. But this one is shadows and face products in one. I am trying to get the camera to focus, but it doesn't want to focus too much. I know it's like such reflective packaging. This one right here, Metropolis. You can't get this one anymore, but I would say this is my favorite Natasha Denona palette ever. This was my first palette that I ever bought from the brand. And there was no looking back for me. I've been in love ever since. I would love to have a palette like this from her again. I think it is amazing. So then my favorite would be Yucca palette, and then this one. I think the Trio Chrome from Natasha is fabulous. Like, this one definitely did not get the hype that it deserves. It has these beautiful murky tones with 3 multi-chromes. The formula's phenomenal. And the Circo Loco palette, also beautiful, amazing quality. I like this palette so much. I'm sure her neutral palettes probably sell the best for her, which is why she probably does so many neutral leaning palettes. But I just love that she does make palettes for those of us who love color too. Okay, we have Retro Glam. Not the most exciting color story, but I really enjoyed the quality, and I do like mixing in some deeper shades with this one. Natasha Denona has consistent quality. This was such a good palette. I don't think this one is available anymore. That's why I say was. It's been on some trips with me. I absolutely love the quality of these shadows. This is another one that I got a lot of use out of. This went on some vacations with me. And the pastel palette. This is one of my favorite pastel palettes because it's Natasha Denona formula in pastel shades. I don't do really all pastel looks unless I am exclusively reviewing a palette. Pastels for me are things that I mix in with my deeper shades, my jewel tones. I use them as blending out shades, inner corner shades. I really, really love the quality of this palette though, like all Natasha Denona palettes. This is the Glam Face palette. I want to say she had 2 versions of this one, a lighter version and a deeper version. I of course bought the deeper version because I love deep shadows. I just love it. So there is that, but we have more. Let me pull these out. So my Dream palette. This is a really beautiful palette. I think this one, this is really great because it is neutral with some color. You know, we have like these orangey tones, we have the berry tones, but there's enough neutrals that you can do something really simple. It's light, it's dark, it has a lot. The Retro palette I also think is really good. This palette is soft and romantic, but it's also deep and sultry, and I like that. You can go a lot of directions with this one. That center shade is so sparkly. We have some of her cream to powder formula, just really beautiful. And then here I have the Zendo palette. This palette I feel like got mixed reviews, and I'm not sure I understand why. I mean, not everybody's gonna love everything, and that's it. Like, that's the reason. We all have different preferences. I do know that. But I thought the quality of this was great. Every shade performed so well. We have beautiful duochromes in here. I like the color story of the like salmon pink shades with the kind of teal blues. The Glam palette is one of my favorite cool toned neutral palettes. This for me is beautiful, cool leaning neutrals without just being gray. I really like the undertones in this, and I think it's super beautiful. I do prefer warm tones over cool tones though, so that's why I do prefer my bronze palette. This was one of my favorite neutral palettes until the Yucca palette came along. You may not think Yucca is neutral, but for me and my skin tone, it definitely is a neutral palette. And I really love bronze still. Don't get me wrong. You can see I've definitely got some use out of this one. BellaBeauteBar. These 4 palettes I actually got last year. Last year was my first time trying the brand. So we have Angles of Illumination 3. This is their beautiful all duochrome palette. This one they don't make anymore, but I know they're going to do something new like that. This is Strange and Unusual. The love I have for this palette, absolutely stunning. Now, since all 4 of these palettes have launched, BellaBeauteBar has updated their matte formula. So they have this palette on pre-order actually with the new updated formula. So I did go to the site and I did pre-order it, and I think that it is going to arrive to me before the end of the year, if not early next year. I love this palette so much. It was one of my favorite palettes of the year last year. So when I saw that they have it in their even better formula, I had to order it. I love when brands are improving all the time. I appreciate that so much when brands don't just say, you know, we're good, because that's how brands like fall behind, in my opinion. So I'm excited for BellaBeauteBar. This is their CEO of the Rainbow collaboration palette with Lexi LALA. Actually, I've got to meet Lexi and hang out with her again. She is not only incredibly talented. If you do not follow her, please do. She's on Instagram and TikTok, Lexi LALA Makeup. She is so sweet, and I just love hanging out with her, chatting with her, talking to her. Like, she's really a cool person, and she did a beautiful job on this palette. We also have Celestial Garden. This is the collaboration with M. Jones, and what can I say? Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I love the mattes and the shimmers, duochromes. I think the shades are absolutely gorgeous. And then we have all of these water activated liner shades too. Here are some of Bella Beaute's newer palettes that launched this year. This is the Bejeweled palette. So pretty, all these jewel tones. If you are over the pastel palettes, but you want color, but you want something deep, definitely check this one out. Amazing quality. We have, let me see if I can show this to you better. This is Recently De-Influenced. This is one of their newer launches. Absolutely gorgeous. Lots of multi-chromes. Beautiful color story. The orange shades, I enjoy so much. I think they're really stunning. Then we have Basic Witch. This may be one of my favorite palettes that they've done. I really like this color story. I think they did something super fun for Halloween with the pinks, the purples, that kind of yellowy orange hue. Then we have that kind of dusky purpley gray over there. We have the sun and the sea. I like this one a lot as well. This one is super cool on the inside. We have that beautiful like neutral with purples and blue color story. Really like that one. Smoky Glam. So we have a few of these palettes that are in this large format from BellaBeauteBar, and honestly, like, I really like this. I think they gave us tons of shades to work with, to blend with. I know it's big, but I love it. I really like this color story. I like that they gave us these cool tones. I like that there's like just a little hint of like a neutral olive down there, some pinks and purples. I think they really did a great job on this one. And then Pastel Garden as well. Look at this. Isn't that pretty? Like, it is beautiful pastel shades. I think the quality of this is amazing. Honestly, every single shade in there performed beautifully. And then we have the Best Mattes palette. This is a collaboration between Ellie Starr and Brittany Huffman. So pretty. I love using this palette with my single shadows, my shimmers, my multi-chromes, my liquid shadows, things like that. Of course, you can create an all matte look if you want, but this palette is also magnetic. So if you're somebody who likes to rearrange your palettes, if you like to do custom palettes, you can do that. So I really appreciate that. What is that for BellaBeauteBar this year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I really like that. I wonder if we'll get one more release before the end of the year, or if we're gonna have to wait till next year. Nomad Cosmetics. Let's talk about these palettes. I will save these for later. Let me scoot these out of the way and we can just kind of go through these. So this was the holiday palette for last year, inspired by the North Pole. Nomad is an indie brand that does a lot of destination themed palettes. Then we had Paradise Islands. I really like this. This is a fun, bright, colorful palette. I love all the bright shades. So pretty. This one, I really like this one. This is the Monteverde Cloud Forest palette. Super colorful with a lot of green shades. So this is their Haunted Europe palette. I am not sure if they still make this one. This is like a cool toned, colorful palette. Really, really pretty though. I love this one. This was my favorite for such a long time from the brand. And then let's see, we have this one. This is a beautiful pastel palette. Has some really pretty like shimmer shades, really, really light pastels. We have the Provenance palette. So this one, gorgeous. I love the bees. I thought this was like such a 90s color story. It made me think of the show Blossom. If you remember that show, you'll have to let me know. This is the Land of Fire and Ice palette. Iceland inspired palette. This was the first palette I ever purchased from Nomad, and I was hooked after that. I thought the quality of this was gorgeous. I thought the color story was so good. We have the Whistler Snow Lodge palette. This one with another beautiful color story. I think Nomad, they make good color stories. I really like their palettes. And then we have the Hudson Valley palette. I think this is a lot of people's favorite fall palette. It has such beautiful shades, and I think it is really cool in the way we have the warm shades and the cool shades. But these are the palettes that launched this year from Nomad. So we have our first kind of like mini palette from Nomad. This is Nomad Air. It's just a neutral mini palette. This is one of my personal favorite palettes they've done, and can you guess why? Look at all those green shades. I really like the mix of neutrals and green tones. The Ghost Town USA palette. This was fun. This was like the I don't know, the fun Halloween type of palette that I didn't know I needed. I loved the theme of the Ghost Town. We have some cool tone shades in here, just really pretty. We've got neutral and color. I like that a lot. This palette, Nomad took it to the next level with this packaging. This is like Romeo and Juliet inspired palette. I thought a Love and Death palette was so perfect for Valentine's Day. I really like it. I like that we kind of had these two sides to the palette. So if you didn't want to use the whole thing, you could kind of cover one side and just treat it like a 9-pan. I really, really liked that though. But this one may be my personal favorite. This is the Royal Europe palette. And it's a very dark, very mid-tone to dark shades. I don't mind that at all because I can totally pull in one of my pastel palettes and use it with this one. I just love that they gave us multi-chromes. They gave us jewel tones. Like, I love dark shades. I love jewel tones. So I really loved this one. I'm surprised. These are the only two Pat McGrath palettes that I've bought this year. So we have this little mini palette. So cute. I really like that Pat McGrath does these. This is the Sublime Smoke palette. And then I have the, what is this? Divine Bronze. I can't believe those are the only two that I bought this year because I actually skipped out on her holiday collection. So let's look at her holiday palettes from previous years. Why not? So the first one in this format was this one right here. I don't believe these are available anymore. I hope they are. I think they're amazing, but I'm pretty sure they're limited edition. So this was the first kind of that she did in that format. I don't remember which one came after that, but we do have this one. Really beautiful, some nice fun colors and neutral shades mixed together. And then we have this one in the hot pink packaging. Whoops, this one is the kind of most colorful from Pat McGrath. I really like this. I love the purples. I love the neutrals. I think this is just such a gorgeous, gorgeous palette from her. Let's talk about the Bridgerton palettes. So I love the show. I love that they did a collab. This is gorgeous. Look at the bees. I liked the quality of this. I feel like these got mixed reviews as well, but I totally enjoyed mine. I was very happy with my purchase. And this one as well for Bridgerton. I think this was actually the first of the Bridgerton palettes to launch. And yeah, I really like it. I really like the sparkly blue. We have, oh, let me see. Let me get my smaller palettes out from Pat McGrath. So this is the first of the little 6 pans that Pat McGrath did. The quality of these are really nice. This one is the Midnight Voyage palette. And then this quad right here, let me see if I can get it open. Beautiful. We have that beautiful like shifty duochrome type of sparkly shade from Pat McGrath. We have our beautiful shimmers and matte formula. So I really like those. And then we can talk about her palettes like this. I really liked this Star Wars set from Pat McGrath. This one being my favorite. I love the quality of these shadows. I really like the little R2-D2 palette too. It was more colorful, but more like bright, vibrant colors. And then of course, C3PO was leaning more neutral. I really like these. I'm very happy with the money that I spent on this collection. And then these two palettes, let me show you. So we have neutrals, we have cool tones, we have more pinky neutrals. I really like these. I think the quality of these was great. This cool tone one, surprisingly, was actually my favorite of the two. I thought the quality was really good. Let's talk about my mothership palettes, the expensive ones, the big ones. She usually does like one of these a year, I believe, except for when she initially launched, and she launched several. But this one is so pretty. I'm sorry if I don't know the names of these. They kind of get lost on the back, but I will see if I can find them. I really like this one. So that one is the Utopian Dream. Then this was an existing palette that she just put a sticker on the cover for Star Wars. I don't care. I love it. I didn't have this one, so I was happy to buy it in the Star Wars packaging. And it has a really beautiful color story. I actually think this is a very underrated palette from Pat McGrath because I enjoy it a lot. Whoops. I'm just letting them fall, y'all. If they break, I will cry. This, one of the prettier color stories from Pat McGrath in my opinion, but it is all shimmer with no mattes. I just really like that one though. And then here we have this one. This is, what is this? Divine? No, this is not Divine Rose 2. This is Moonlit Seduction. Sorry. Moonlit Seduction. Really beautiful. The one I showed you that was all shimmer is actually, I don't know. I don't see a label on that one. The Star Wars one is the Midnight Sun Mothership. I'm going to attempt to stack those up nicely. And then this one I got in the gold mirrored packaging. I don't know if it's still available in this packaging anymore, but this one was actually Divine Rose 2, I believe. I did not buy the original Divine Rose. It's a little more muted, but this one had a gorgeous multi-chrome in it, her beautiful shimmers. Yes, Divine Rose 2. And then I have this one. This one, I love this color story. I love the choice of mattes. I love the choice of shimmers. They kind of shift. If you see in the mirror, they shift just There we go. Really, really pretty though. And those are all in my Pat McGrath palette. Right, Wicked Widow Beauty. So this palette launched last year. This is the Scissor Hands 2 palette. Really beautiful. The mattes have scissors embossed on them. I think that's so fun. And I really liked this palette. So I was super excited to see what they were going to do for 2023. And we have some winners. We have some winners. So this palette right here, I forget what exactly it is called. I think Tea Party or Tea Time, I forget. Okay, look at that cute color story though. Isn't that fun? I love a good mini palette. The Graveyard Smash palette, their palette for Halloween. I thought this was such a well curated color story. In 8 shades, they were able to capture fun Halloween while also making a palette that creates beautiful eye looks. So this palette though, this is one of the best rainbow palettes, honestly. We have rainbow mattes and we have multi-chromes. They did a good job with this palette. They really did. I love that we have the grays and the black and the white, so you can kind of custom make your shade if you want to, mixing it with other mattes. They knocked it out of the park with this one, and it makes me so excited for what's to come from the brand. Okay, Fantasy Cosmetica. Let's start with their first palette ever, the Druid palette. I enjoyed this palette a lot. I think this is such a fun color story. I really like Fantasy Cosmetica. I think that they're a very cool gaming inspired brand. We have the Sorcerer palette. Oh, let me open it. I liked this vibrant color story. I thought this was really fun, definitely different than their Druid palette. And then the Bard, this one is such beautiful tones. I love these like yellow, orange, green, burgundy color story. And then this year we have 3 new palettes. Actually, let me grab the collection of singles also. I might as well show you these. This is their latest launch. This is the Lost Library. I'm not sure if these are still available, but they did a collection of single holographic shadows, and I love the Lost Library theming. Again, not a palette, just singles, but why not show you? So we have the Rogue palette. Isn't that pretty? I thought the quality of the shadows in here was really, really good. Like, I enjoy this so much. These mattes perform so well. The Fighter palette is their more cool tone palette. I think if you like browns, if you like neutrals, this would be the Fantasy Cosmetica palette for you. Yes, it does have some color, but look at these beautiful like cool tone shades. And then their newest palette launch is the Warlock. So this one, definitely a more vibrant color story. We have the deep shades and the bright shades, and yeah, of course I'm excited to see what Fantasy Cosmetica is going to do next. Cosmic Brushes has quickly become a favorite brand for me. This is the Gothic palette. This one launched recently from them. This is a berry purple tone palette. Really, really great quality. Cosmic Brushes makes really high quality shadows. I enjoy them so, so much. This for me is the palette that started my love of the brand. This is the Serenity palette. This one is probably still my personal favorite just because of the color story. The quality of Cosmic Brushes, all of these palettes, is standout. The quality is consistent. I have no issues whatsoever, but this is my favorite because of the color story. It's a very me color story. It's shades I like. Listen, I tried this and I fell in love. So we have the Muse palette. Sorry, let me get these where you can see them. So with Muse, we have this really pretty color story. Again, we have greens and we have some more muted type of tones. They really do a good job of bringing variety to their color stories, which I really enjoy. The Delicious Delights palette is kind of their take on pastels. So we definitely have some beautiful pastel tones, but I love that it's not just pastels. I'm like, oh, that light wants to hit on that gold around the pans. But we have beautiful multi-chrome in here. We have beautiful mattes. And like I said, there are pastels, but we also do have that deep purple. And we have a couple of shades that aren't really pastel, but are more mid-tone, like that hot pink, purple, blue. Just overall, really, really gorgeous. And then their newest launch for winter is this Winter Wonderland palette. So we have the icy tones. I love that brands are doing like this wintry take on the holidays. They're focusing on like blues and purples. I only have 4 palettes from the brand for this year, and I think that's a great number of launches. Of course, I always want more, but the quality of these, the color story is absolutely gorgeous. Here is my Potions palette from Besame. I use this for display. It does come out to make a smaller palette if you want to take it on the go. I thought these shadows were fine. The glitter is apparently an eye safe glitter, so it is approved for the eye area. It was not my favorite formula. I just honestly, like, to me, this is a display. It is a display decoration type thing for my makeup room. I love it for that. Here, let me show you my Nudie Patootie. This is from Larlie Los Angeles. I bought this. I have a video, I think, testing a bunch of Larlie Los Angeles products. I think this is nice, but I think her formula has gotten even better. This is the Whimsical Nudes palette. Like this. I was trying to think, is this the first palette I bought? But no, I think I bought Nudie Patootie first, and then I bought this one at launch. I like this. I think this is very pretty. We have some beautiful shimmer shades, some beautiful matte shades. I enjoyed this. And Larlie, like, the brand leans very neutral, so I liked seeing some like greens in this palette. I thought that was really, really nice. This is P. Louise Hocus Pocus Regain Focus, a Book of Spells palette. Now, I have not used my P. Louise palettes. I'm gonna be honest, I bought these for the packaging. Again, this is like on display here in my makeup room because I just love, like, I love the whole book theme. This actually locks, like, you lock it closed. It is over the top extra, and then opening it up, it's so massive. Like, do you see the Hocus Pocus? Let me get it to focus because that shiny Hocus Pocus, let me get it to focus. It is so, like, massive, right? Massive. But I know so many people like the quality of the shadows. I just don't know. Like, yeah, you saw this, it's double-sided. I mean, this thing is so big, but do you see the embossings on the pan? Like, it just makes me happy, okay? I really like it. I think it's super fun. This is stuck. I want this to lay right in here. So, yeah, I bought that for the packaging, and the same with this one. This is the Droplet of Magic palette, Book of Spells. Once again, it has the lock and key. And you know what? Where are the keys? Okay, so I have a key here. Oh, it's in the lock. Okay, it's in the lock. Sorry. I was like, oh, what did I do with it? I'll never find it. It's so small. Okay, so we have cooler tones over here. Again, cool embossings on the pans, bats and ghosts and potions and things like that. And then on the flip side, we have some more warm tones with the Droplet of Magic. Again, I haven't tried these, but like, do you see that even the like spine of the book is just so detailed, and it was a must-have for me. It was a must-have. Okay, this is the Lavender One palette from Lawless. Lawless does a lot of like soft neutrally tones, so I do like that we have one deeper shade in here, and I like that they gave us a little bit of color. This is it's a Maya palette. This is the Industrial Volume 2, I believe. This palette was like so surprising to me. I bought it because I heard so many great reviews on the first one and people just really loving it, but I was still kind of skeptical, and I really like it. Like, I'm pleasantly surprised, and I would definitely like to try more from this brand in the future. It's pricey, and I don't regret the money I spent. This is a collab with Smeek Broke. I don't know, I'm not saying that right. I'm so sorry. I believe she is Swedish, so I apologize for not pronouncing that correctly, but this is a collab with Salon Cosmetics. This is the Forest Heart palette. I love this color story. I think it's so pretty. I really, really like that hot pink in the center. I think it's so beautiful. We have some neutral tones in there, so you could definitely create a neutral look if that is your preference. Just really, really pretty. I love trying new indie brands. Here are my palettes from Arttitude Cosmetics. This is the newest launch. This is the Obsession palette. This is really beautiful. Like, this is really beautiful. They did a great job with this one. I like the color story. I think the mix of light shades and deep shades is so beautiful. This palette is one that launched earlier this year, and this is beautiful as well. They really did something with this palette and the Obsession palette. I just think the quality in here is so nice, and I enjoyed a lot. I think both palettes have gorgeous color stories, gorgeous formulas. This palette is one of their older palettes. This is the Phoenix palette. I like this palette. I thought it was really beautiful. I do think the quality of these two is definitely like improved, but I do like this palette, and I think it's a good one. It has some beautiful fiery shades as well as some cool tone shades. Okay, here are my Simply Posh palettes. Let's start with the first palette I ever tried from the brand. This is Fairy Tale Fairies. I really liked this first palette. I really like the color story. I love that we had pastel and deeper tones. I love that we have a row of duochromes. So you'll definitely see that is their format as we look through the palettes. Genuine Gems. This one, ooh, it's got those deep, dark tones. Again, mattes, duochromes, mattes, really beautiful. And then we have Citrus Punch. So the next three all launched this year. This one, like, I really like this. I like the color story a lot. I know some people have had problems with Simply Posh in the past being a little too hard pressed. And I did see that the brand was like replacing palettes and shadows for people. So I do really appreciate that. Although I will say for me, I never had any pressing issues. So I really like these. The Berry Icy palette as well. Super duper pretty. I'm pretty sure this one launched at the beginning of this year. I really like this berry color story, and I like the theming. I just thought it was cute to do like berries and do the blues too with the kind of purpley and red tones. I don't know. I thought that was really creative, and I enjoyed that a lot. I will say the Cozy Cabin, this is definitely my favorite palette that they have done. I think the quality in this palette is the best they've ever done. Like, I really like the other ones. I think they're great, but this is like the greatest, you know? The color story is so beautiful, but I think they've really got their shimmer and matte formula down with this one. So again, we have those 6 beautiful mattes, 6 duochromes, then 6 deeper, darker mattes. I really enjoyed playing with this palette. Like, makes me super excited to see what the brand is going to do in the future. All right, let's look at some super sparkly palettes. First, I have my Clionadh Deep Sea Treasures palette. I really like that Clionadh put together a palette of their singles. They're magnetic. You can pop them out. You can move these around. But I know sometimes shopping the Clionadh site can be so overwhelming, and even watching videos of singles, which I have videos like that and I love to do them. I think they're so fun. It can still be overwhelming. I mean, I know when I placed my first order for Clionadh, I was like watching videos, making lists, looking at swatches, and it's a lot. So I just, listen, I really think this was just a smart move to come out with a collection like this of new multi-chromes in a palette form. So it's a great way for people to kind of test the brand and see what they think. The Dragon Fruit palette, absolutely love. Absolutely love. This one is another all shimmer special sparkly shade palette. I love this acrylic packaging. I would love to see Clionadh do more like this. I think it's so beautiful, so beautiful. And then this is actually this is Touch of Glam, not your basic batch. I couldn't remember the name, but beautiful, beautiful sparkly shadows. I want to set this aside because I think I'm going to play with this palette tomorrow, actually. It's so pretty. All right, Lunar Beauty. This is their newest launch, Siren Sunset. Absolutely beautiful color story. I really like that Lunar Beauty gave us multi-chromes in this one. The other launch from Lunar Beauty for this year is their Full Fantasy palette. This was actually a collaboration with the Larly Los Angeles brand. And I loved this one. I loved the mix of neutral and color. I think they did a good job with this one, bringing in this, like I said, like kind of berries, a duochrome, a little bit of olive in with their neutral shades. And then we have the Moonspell palettes. Listen, I love these. I love these so much, not just for the packaging, although the packaging I love, don't play with me. This is Moonspell, the original. I fell in love with Lunar Beauty over this palette. And then volume 2 came, and I would love to see a volume 3. I really would. I think these are beautiful palettes, beautiful packaging, just next level, over the top. I really, really enjoy it. I keep them in here because I want them to stay protected. So let me pull in this. This was the last year palette from Lunar Beauty. I thought this was a really smart idea because it was like an advent calendar, 12 days of Christmas. Each day you got to unpack a shadow and arrange it how you wanted it. So I had fun with that. This is the Life's a Drag Facelift palette. I never ordered the first palette that was the Life's a Drag. So when I saw Lunar Beauty kind of like redo the palette, I was like, okay, let me try it. Let me try it. This is the, Eternal Eclipse palette. This is one of my favorite neutral palettes ever. The quality in here is absolutely beautiful, and it has exciting neutrals because we have some grays. We also have some warm tones. We have shimmers. We have a little bit of blue. The Greek Goddess palette. Oh, this one's so good. This one is so good. Like, what do you want me to say? They don't make it anymore, but the packaging is next level. We've already established. I love Medusa. We have Nude Prism, another neutral palette from Lunar Beauty. Stunning. It speaks for itself, right? But Strawberry Dream, this one is so underrated. Honestly, beautiful packaging, beautiful color story. The quality of these shadows is so good. This palette deserves so much more hype than it gets. Kaleidos Club Nebula with my bestie Angelica Nyqvist. Oh, she killed it with this palette. She killed it with this palette. It is stunning. This is the best Kaleidos has ever done. I love it. I treasure it. This actually goes in a separate spot so I can look at it and see it. We also have the Escape Pod. I actually bought this from Kaleidos, and then they updated the packaging, made it a little more sleek, and they did send me a new one. But this is the newer version. I miss this format from Kaleidos. This and the Club Nebula, like the layout of the palette, the colorful shades. They've gone in a much more neutral direction lately, which I understand. You got to do what sells, I guess, but I do hope that next year we see some more color from the brand. We have this quad right here. Same collection, we have this one. Then we have their Night of Creation collection. Everybody is always like, oh, the front cover looks like, I mean, it's Night of Creation. Like, come on, people, get it together. We know what it is. This is their kind of most recent quads. I think these are the only shadows that Kaleidos has launched this year, if I'm not mistaken. I have this Futurism palette. Let's see, I'm moving so much, see if the camera wants to focus. This one, absolutely beautiful. Kaleidos has a great eyeshadow palette formula. This one I love. Aside from Angie's palette, this is probably my favorite that they've done. I love that the top kind of like slides off like that. I don't know, like it's so cool, and the color story is so cool. It's really, really a great palette. Okay, let's get to my Sigma palettes. We're gonna start with all the palettes that launched this year. So this is the Anne Nook palette. I think she is so incredibly talented, and I can see this palette from a pro makeup artist. Like, I get it. This totally looks pro inspired to me, to the sleek black packaging for the blending shades, the white, the black, really, really pretty. I, of course, like that row of color that she put in there. And then the Angela Bright palette, I really hope to meet her one day. She seems like a super cool person, and she created a beautiful palette as well. She is so insanely talented with makeup. Her blend is perfection. If you were looking for like tutorials from somebody who knows makeup, definitely check her out. I think you will really, really like her. But we have beautiful neutrals and colorful shades in here. I think she did a great job with this palette. And then we have all of these palettes. So Sigma launched these 4 right here, and I really love the Beachy palette. The tones in here are super nice. I really like that we have this kind of like duochrome shade here. Really beautiful. The jewels also gorgeous. Of course, I love this more olivey gold toned palette in Earth. And then we have the electric pink. I don't think it's very electric, but I do think for Sigma it is really, really beautiful. And then these quads. I really enjoy these quads too. I think they're pretty. Of course, my favorite is the caramel apple quad. We have creme brulee, tiramisu, bonbon, peach pie, blueberry. I really enjoy Sigma, and I like that they give different formats of palettes. Large palettes, quads, 9 pans, like there is choice with Sigma. Sigma Disney, this is their newest palette from this year. This is the Beauty and the Beast palette. So they gave a beautiful neutral color story. I think this makes a lot of sense, especially looking at next to the other Disney palettes. I think going elegant for Beauty and the Beast was really a great idea, especially since the year before we had Alice in Wonderland, which you can tell by the packaging was a more colorful palette. Very beautiful with just a couple of neutral shades in there. I really love this one. This one, probably my personal favorite because I love those types of shades. And then the first palette to launch was Cinderella. So this was really a half neutral, half colorful palette. I really like this one too. I think the quality of Sigma is consistent. They make easy to blend mattes, shimmers in different formulas. Some of the shimmers in Sigma, I just feel like are so smooth and flattering, while some have a beautiful, fun texture to them. So I like that in the kind of Disney series that they're doing, we have a half neutral, half colorful, a colorful, and a neutral palette. Of course, there are a couple of neutrals in here, a couple of colorful shades in here, but I like that there's kind of something for everyone. I've got the rest of my Sigma palettes. We're gonna move through these kind of quickly. Here is the Spicy palette. I have Ritzy. I really like this one too. It has those more gold undertones. I have Coeur de Rosa. Beautiful. Absolutely love this one. And then I also have the mini Coeur de Rosa. Not that I needed it. It is repeat shades from the larger Coeur de Rosa, but I bought this when my friend Karen Harris, she has a favorite set with Sigma. Of course, I had to buy it. I love her so much. She's amazing. And I now have the mini, which is perfect for travel. The Enchanted palette I love. Okay, like this, I liked Sigma before, but this palette, I was in love. I was in love. It's amazing. The Warm Neutrals palette, exactly what it says. I bet this is a top seller for Sigma. It's so pretty. We have the Untamed palette. I'm not sure if this one is still around. I really like this palette. I think it's pretty. I like these kind of like deep tones, and I like the shades in here. Really beautiful. Nomad is one of my favorites. I love this color story. I love that we have neutral shades along with the pinks and this like pop of blue purple up there. The quality in this one is top notch. The Diana Saldana palette. I'm sorry, I've been talking for so long. I'm getting my words mixed up, but she did a beautiful job with this palette. This is very much her. I actually got to meet her in person, and she is just as flawless in person, you know, like you think you see somebody online and you're like, no way they're that beautiful in real life. She absolutely is. I have the Bare Bliss palette. This one, so, whoa, come on, focus now. The shiny packaging throws it off, but this one is really, really beautiful. Again, with those pinky tones and neutrals. This was for holiday. I'm not sure if they still make this, but I really enjoy this. I think this is beautiful neutral shades. I think the undertones they chose are super gorgeous. And then the Stephanie Lang palette. This is the Essentials palette. So these are meant to be for like face or eyes. And I thought this was a really nice palette. I enjoyed it a lot. Okay, I've got my Flower Beauty palettes. This one launched this year, Garden Lights. And then I have Coastal Lights right here. I loved these two so much. I had to get the two new ones. Although if you're looking at picking some up, this one, my personal favorite, Jungle Lights. I just like that we have neutral and color. But if you want something more neutral leaning, the formulas in both of these two are all great. This one, they kind of introduced new formulas, almost like a little bit of like a putty. Kind of like a Super Shock, but I think Super Shocks are a bit better. This one would probably be my third choice. So that's my Flower Beauty collection. The only two palettes I have from Shroud are the collabs with my beautiful friend, Betty Jean. She did the Hollow Bean palette. This was her second collab with the brand. Absolutely beautiful. Do you see this? I love it. She did such a good job with this one. And her first collab was the It's Freaking Bats. This was one I had an alarm set for. I pre-ordered it. It is so beautiful. Again, you can see like how pretty it is. I understand why brands want to work with her because she does a great job. This is my only palette from One Size, and I really like the quality. I wish they would do more fun collabs like this. This is their Fantasia collab, so you can see there's this cool mirror on one side. That is what my camera's wanting to focus on. There we go. But this was a face and eye palette. I thought this was fun. I thought the quality of the blushes was great, the matte and the glowy. I thought the shadows were nice. Those two shades up top are like eye topper type formulas. I feel like for the mainstream market, like Sephora, where One Size is sold, maybe this was a little ahead of its time because this launched and I don't think it got a lot of hype. And then this year in 2023, we saw Urban Decay come out with their Moon Dust palettes, and people are loving those, but I feel that these are even better than the Moon Dust, but they're very sparkly and reflective. So I really like this palette. I don't have many palettes from Makeup Revolution, but if you've been with me since the Game of Thrones debacle, I will keep palettes for packaging, but not that one because the packaging was terrible. Not on theme at all, but these two I really enjoy for the theming, for the packaging. Makeup Revolution, I don't feel like they have bad eyeshadow formulas. I think that these were good palettes. Of course, not my most reached for or favorites, but I do really like Coraline, so I'm keeping this palette, and it's cute. I enjoyed it. I think I have a video up on my channel with this one. And the Beetlejuice palette, I think there were 2 of these. I actually found this one in store because I want to say they sold out pretty quickly online. Very, very fun. And then, of course, I have my Emily Noel palette. I think she did a good job. It was at a great price point. The products are pretty. I really like Emily Noel. I would love to meet her in person one day. She seems so super genuine. And then her larger Makeup Revolution palette. So yeah, I really, really, really enjoy Emily's channel and enjoy her. So I had to buy these. Let's talk about my little collection of MAC palettes. So you see the ones I have are all collaboration palettes because I've gotten rid of a lot of my MAC stuff. I used to save my money and buy MAC singles. I remember asking for like gift cards to MAC for Christmas when I was younger. I loved MAC, and I felt like MAC, the MAC counter, because I didn't have a standalone store in my area, and I always felt like going to the MAC counter was just such a fun experience because the people there loved makeup, and it was obvious they loved makeup. And yeah, I don't know, it brings back such good memories. I was actually talking to my friend Linda from Glitter Fallout recently because we were both just reminiscing about like shopping at MAC, and I remember getting MAC brushes, and anyways, it was just a great memory. So I keep these 2 older palettes from MAC. I used to, it's just crazy. Like MAC collections used to sell out so fast. I got the Cinderella palette when the live action Cinderella came out. This is not an exciting color story at all. I don't think you'll be able to tell on camera, but that deep dark shade, like the bottom 2 shades of this quad, are definitely my most used. And then when the Maleficent movie came out, I got this quad as well. I actually really liked the cool tones paired with that kind of yellowy gold. And then MAC recently, well, I say recently, I can't remember if it was 2022 or 2021 that they collabed with Stranger Things, and I thought it was such a cute concept because they did like a Hawkins palette, so to represent, of course, Hawkins from the show, and then they did an upside down palette to represent the other side, the upside down, if you will. So I thought this was cute, fun. I thought the quality of the shadows was consistent with what I expected from my MAC singles. But then when they launched the Black Panther palette, we had some new formulas in here. I really enjoyed this, and I liked the new formulas that they were introducing. I love the highlighters that I bought, and yeah, I will definitely buy MAC again if they do another collaboration that is interesting to me. MAC, they used to be it. They used to be it. And when I see these things in my collection, it just reminds me of those days. That even the days I'm talking about were before these collections launched. But there's something especially about these palettes, like this packaging reminds me of that old school MAC. And look, even here, I'm getting off topic, but here is one of my MAC brushes. Like, this brush is so old, but it's still so good. And I want to say I paid maybe like $40 or $50 for one brush, but this brush is probably older than my kid, honestly. And my son is like, he's a teenager. This brush is probably 16 years old. I don't even know. Let's talk about my lethal palettes. This is the 1UP palette. This is fun. I'm not obsessed with it, but I like it. Now, I am obsessed with these from Teresa. I got to meet Teresa this year, and I'm so happy I did because she is such a cool person. I really enjoyed hanging out with her. Exactly who you see in her videos is who you see in person. She was so super nice to me, and I just, yeah, when I saw her, I was like, I want to hug you. Like, I'm so happy to meet you. And yeah, I just really enjoyed getting to meet her and her husband. So her collabs, first of all, we love. This packaging right here, don't play with me. I want to be down here with Teresa getting like beamed up, you know, like surely there are things better than this planet, you know, like anyways, her collab is great. I'm so happy that I got these. I think they're fun and they're fun together, right? Is my camera focusing? Because she did a great job. Anyways, if she works with them again, I'll have to have that one too. Like, let's just expand the collection, you know? Okay, let's talk about Sydney Grace. Of course, I bought the Mel Thompson Sydney Grace Tiny Marbles palette. I bought this right at launch. It is so special. The quality in here was beautiful. Mel was beautiful. She really did an amazing job with this palette. I'm so happy to have it, and it's just beautiful. The Tropicolor palette, of course, from Tina, the Fancy Face. I got to meet Tina earlier this year and just loved getting to hang out with her. Yeah, I really look forward to getting to hang out with her again in the future. She's such a fun person, but I totally had to buy her Tropicolor palette when she had this with Sydney Grace. She did a beautiful job. I totally see the inspiration behind it, and I have a video for sure with that one. Recently, Sydney Grace sent me a few things, and they did send me a couple of their palettes. I have not had a chance to use these, and I definitely want to. I want to do a look or something with these, but we have the Raspberry Kiss palette. So, isn't this pretty? Yeah, let's see. Raspberry Kiss. So, it's this really pretty, like, berry toned neutral leaning palette. Whoop, there we go. I don't want to blind you, but yeah, I really want to use this. So maybe we will use this in a get ready with me or a reel or something coming up soon. And they also sent me their Heaven on Earth. Now I'm gonna be careful because there was some damage in transit, but this is beautiful. Like, this looks like Heaven on Earth to me. This sea turtle, absolutely stunning. So this is what the inside looks like. So I just had the one shade broken and one shade a little like cracked, but I want to use this one too because I really like these tones. I think they're super beautiful, and again, I think Sydney Grace has a consistently good eyeshadow formula, so I definitely want to use those two. If you have any feedback, like which one you would like me to use first, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. Next up, we have my Gourmande Girl palettes. I actually need to go through my collection because I feel like I may have more than this. I just need to dig them out. So this is the Spooked palette. This, to me, was where things took a turn for Gourmande Girls. They went from being good to being great. I love this palette. I think they did a great job, and the formulas are amazing, both in the Haunted and the Nightshade palette. Both of these new releases from this year. These are that amazing Gourmande Girls quality, and then Nightshade here, really beautiful. They complement each other very well. And then I also have the Warriors Wear Pink palette. This was a collaboration between Gourmande Girls and one of the owner's friends who is actually battling cancer. Okay, I knew I had more Gourmande Girls palettes. I was just like, where though? So I had these stuck with some other indie like shimmery palettes. So this is the Ethereal palette, all beautiful sparkly shades. And this is the Radioactive palette. This is another one that, whoops, beautiful, all shimmer, all sparkly. If I could only pick one, it would be the Ethereal palette. I don't know why, I just kind of, I don't know, I like the shades in this one. There's something about the dark and the light contrasting that I enjoy. Now we're going to go through some palettes that I don't have more than one or more than one or two from the brand. So I just pulled these and I'm like, let's go through them. So this is from Glam Shop. This, I believe, is a Polish indie brand. I actually got to go to Poland last year and loved it. Loved it. Desperate to get back. I'm very much hoping that 2024 takes me back to Poland and to some other places. But anyways, Glam Shop. This is this palette. Some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shades. Also have some singles from them. Maybe I can grab my collection of singles as well. I kind of need to sort through those. But the the one and only palette from BK Beauty, the True Beauty palette, very, very neutral. This palette was a gift from a beautiful friend. This is Charlotte Tilbury. Beautiful. I promise you, I never feel more American than when I say Charlotte Tilbury. I cannot, I know I'm not saying it correctly, like Charlotte Tilbury. I don't know. I can't say it, okay? I know. This is Kylie. This is the only palette I have from Kylie Cosmetics. This was one of her first palettes, and I'm not getting rid of it for the memories. Listen, I told y'all, I'm not a person who declutters because I feel like I need to declutter. I'm not getting rid of stuff if it makes me happy. I'm not using this palette. One, this palette is old. Two, I liked this palette at the time, but I've since found way better formulas. But it makes me happy because I loved this palette. This was like a go-to palette for me for work. If you don't know, I worked 15 years at a pediatric neonatal hospital, and yes, I worked 12-hour night shifts, and I wore the heck out of this palette and the blushes. I love it. It makes me happy to remember. I have the Estate Cosmetics Bailey Sarian collaboration palette. I love Bailey Sarian. I have never met her. It is a 100% parasocial relationship. But when she collabed with Estate, I bought two. I bought two. I thought this was a really nice palette. I have the Ascendant palette from Electrum Cosmetics. Really, really like this one. Super duper beautiful. Ooh. Pretty, pretty beautiful. And then I have a lot of Electrum Cosmetics singles. I believe most of these were sent to me. I think I bought the palette and most of these were sent to me. Let me just double check that these are... No, these are Divina singles. These four right over here. I told y'all I need to reorganize my singles. These weren't even with my singles. These were not even with my singles. These were with my palettes. So that shows you how much I need to reorganize. So these right here are Divina, and all of these are Electrum. I love how they put the magic ball. What am I thinking? Like, why can't words come out right now? Anyways, I love the embossing on the pan. Y'all, I want to play in shadows. I love my collection videos because they definitely are fun to go through, reorganize, but they also like re-inspire me to play. Oh, I forgot I have another palette from Electrum. See, this is why it's good. I get to reorganize and put my stuff together. This is the Sea Witch palette. This one was sent to me. I have a couple of palettes from Dose of Colors, actually. They're so old. No, I'm not getting rid of them because I love them. This was the collaboration with Desi and Katie. I love this palette. Oh, it's so good. Like, they did a great job with this. I loved the mattes. I loved the shimmers. So good. And then this was their collaboration with I Love Sarai. Karen did an amazing job. I love this one. I don't know if you can see, but there are some major dips in the pan. No, I will not ever be a project panner. I just like to use my makeup organically. So we have the Apocalypse palette. I love the packaging of this one. The packaging totally sold me. I did like the eyeshadows. I thought they were really nice. Ooh, you can see like those multi-chromes. The flip is strong in those. Really, really pretty. I liked this palette. I have thought about trying more from Clarity, but I'm waiting on another release that calls to me. I really liked this one though. Oh, more singles. I have these from Denona. I know I keep these with my palette though because I made them into a little palette, but I do need to move these to my singles actually. Maybe we should put singles in a separate video. This is the Lois Cosmetics or Lois Cosmetics Meet Me in the Underworld palette. I love this palette. I was not over the moon with the second palette that they came out with, Meet Me at Midnight. So I think I ended up giving that one to someone, and they haven't done anything this year at all. I really hope that they come back. I liked this palette a lot though. I thought this was so beautiful. This was one of my favorites. Like, I really like this color story, and I love the theming. I'm all about a good theme, y'all. Okay, I have a couple of KKW palettes. These are the collaboration that Kim Kardashian did with Makeup by Mario before Mario had his own brand, and I'm not getting rid of them because they have great memories. When I went to Myanmar for 2 weeks, I did take these palettes. That was quite a while ago, but you can see how used they are, and they are very Kim and Mario colors. I loved the warm neutrals, and I would do like blue on the lid or navy on the lid. I'm keeping these for the memories. Am I reaching for them? No. This palette, Florasis, this is really nice. I would like to try some more from the brand actually. This is like luxury, but great quality. So you get that buildable eyeshadow formula, but it's not just light. It is actually able to be buildable, because I feel like sometimes with luxury formulas, they say it's supposed to be buildable, but you can never get it to actually build. These, you can get them to actually build. You can see, obviously, this was my favorite shade. It has the most use, very sparkly, very beautiful. I definitely think this brand, it's beautiful packaging, absolutely, but the products inside are actually good too, and that makes me happy. This is another palette that I keep for the memories. This is a collaboration that Sosu did with Kaylee. I'm pretty sure I say her name right, but she actually has her own brand now. I believe it's called Cash Beauty. I haven't tried anything from it, but she's a creator who's insanely talented, and they collabed on the Urban Bible. And this is the only palette I have from the brand, but I watched all of her YouTube videos, behind the scenes, everything. And I just think she killed it with this palette. Like, this color story is absolutely gorgeous. I would love to see her do, like, her version of this palette for 2020, well, maybe for next year, because I really like this color story. I loved that we had these deep, grungy, neutral tones, and I like that we had the colorful shades where we have the red, but the purples are kind of deeper. We have a pink, an orange, a yellow. I just feel like I was able to do a lot with this palette. The purples paired beautifully with the blue. Like, I don't know. You may look at this palette and think, okay, what can I do with this? But it's so beautiful, and every time I used it, I just enjoyed it a lot. This is Rebel Rouge Labs or Rebel Rogue Labs. I'm not sure. This is Howling for You. I bought this palette, and I've tried more from the brand, but this is still like my favorite one that they've done. It does have a pressed glitter, but I really liked it. I thought the quality of all of the shadows were really nice in this one. This was the most consistent palette from the brand, and I really, really like it. I believe this is my only palette from Nabla. This is their side-by-side palette. This is a beautiful neutral palette. I think what drew me to this one is the mix of warm and cool tones. It wasn't just warm tone neutrals. It wasn't just cool tone neutrals. And it wasn't just neutrals straight down the middle. Like, they really gave us a variety. Listen, this palette is so good. I know it is neutral, but the quality is so good. And these oranges are orange. The purples are purple. So I really see this as more of a half neutral, half colorful palette, because you do have 8 shades of more color. I have taken this on several trips with me. I know that Tati Beauty closed down. I have seen that things are going on behind the scenes for her. But I really would love to see Tati come back. Even if it's a brand with something else. But I would love to see her do something like this again. Because the quality in here is so good. And I just loved how we had different formulas and the rose. I don't know, like she was on to something with this one. I really wish she was able to release the other palette that she had been working on. Absolutely no am I buying any replicas or anything like that, but I would love to see her launch her brand again. This is Pastel Dreams from Give Me Glow. I have some singles from Give Me Glow. This is the only palette that I have from the brand. Extremely light Pastel Dreams. Makes sense, right? The Huda Beauty Empowered palette. I bought this last year. This is the only palette I have from Huda Beauty. Y'all have let me know that her large holiday palettes like this are the best from the brand. And I thought this was a good palette. I would really love for holiday to see Huda do something jewel toned. I know she used to have the 9 pans in the jeweled colors, but I know neutrals probably sell the most, but I think it would be fun to have a palette in the formula that everybody loves and maybe half neutral and half beautiful jewel tones, like some deep berries, maybe some sapphire type colors. I don't know. I would like to see something a little different, you know. I have one quad from Makeup by Mario. I didn't love it. I don't know if his newer palettes that everybody loves, the like matte ones and the, you know, the ones that kept selling out, I don't know if that's better formula than this. I didn't think this was bad. I just thought it was okay. I have 2 palettes from NARS. This, why doesn't NARS do more like this? Half neutral, half colorful, really, really, really pretty, consistent, I like, and the quad I have, I really like this as well. So this one, we have this one right here. I don't think I said the name. This is the Stargaze palette. It was their holiday palette from 2022. Okay, let's go through my Urban Decay collection. I miss this Urban Decay. I really love my Alice Through the Looking Glass palette. So if you weren't in the makeup loving world at this time, I mean, Urban Decay, like, it was over the top packaging, and I know this is not the trend in makeup anymore. It's all about sleek, easy to store things, but I loved it. I felt like Urban Decay used to be extra, you know, and this palette, like, I enjoyed this so much. The pans with the biggest dips are here and here. I know it's like hard to see sometimes like this when you're looking at a palette, but definitely the darker shades. I really enjoyed this palette. I love the mix of color and neutral. So, whoops, I'm knocking stuff over. That's such a large palette, but it made me happy. This palette, okay, listen. This is Game of Thrones done right. Not many people love this palette. It did not get great reviews. One, people wanted it more slim and more sleek. I get it. I thought the over the top was fun. I love fun with makeup, so I was into this. I thought the quality of this was amazing too. Like I said, it got really mixed reviews, and I'll kind of share my thoughts as to why. This palette isn't available anymore, so who cares? I actually have one in pristine condition. Yes, I bought another one. And I won't even call it a backup because it's not for if I use this up. It's because I love it and it's pretty. These shadows on this side were like what I expect from indie brands that I love. They're kind of flaky and foiled and very sparkly. Again, kind of what we're seeing being popular from the Moon Dust shadows now. And I just think at the time, a lot of people didn't love that. This was also very shimmer heavy palette. You see in this whole palette, we only have 3 shades. I somebody who loves the sparkle, love that. And the shadow up here was a matte with a sparkle, which we weren't seeing a lot of at the time that this launched. I'm not saying it had never been done. I'm just saying we didn't see it a lot. So I loved this palette. I don't know how much you can tell. Like, yeah, I thought this palette was freaking tabulous, and I love it, and it makes me happy. It doesn't go in a drawer. It sits up where everybody, well, me, can see it, because nobody comes up here but me. This is the newest release. You should have just seen this in a Get Ready With Me, but yes, I said, I want these palettes, but I'm not going to buy them. I didn't buy these palettes. Well, a little time passed, and I bought them. No regrets. No regrets. No regrets. Again, I will stand by what I said about these. They are beautiful. I'm happy to have them. If you only shop Sephora, you only shop Ulta, you're not interested in shopping directly from indie brands, you will really like these. If you were like me, you have Adept, Unearthly, Glaminatrix, Clionadh, like any Glaminatrix, did I say, Gourmande Girls. If you have any of those sparkle shadows, you're not going to be overly impressed by these, but I do like them and I think they're nice. If you want to pick them up, if you have a 20% off or something, I don't think you'll be sad with your purchase. These Naked Smiley palettes, okay, listen, did we see this cool packaging? I'm thinking like 90s grunge, maybe some color, you know. They choose to do what they choose to do. They're nice palettes. They're not bad. At least we had a yellow for the smiley face. Maybe didn't need the 4 neutral shades. At least that one shade is like a gold with a kind of green shift. But this is where it's like, okay, cool packaging, but they missed the mark. Just missed the mark with those. This one, I like this palette. When this palette launched, it got kind of mixed reviews. Oh, I have it upside down. First of all, you see the packaging? I'm telling you, like, I like sleek packaging. Sometimes packaging can be too bulky for no reason. But if there is a purpose to the bulky packaging, if there is a theme, something that the brand is trying to achieve, I'm here for it. And with this, I remember I went to Ulta in store, I want to say, and I got this on launch day because I was like, oh yeah, come to mama. This was fun. This was a fun palette. It was mostly shimmers. I really enjoyed it. This is another one that I feel like got really mixed reviews. Is it the best shimmer palette I've ever had? No. But do I like it? Yes. And it makes me happy. And at the time, I really did like it. I have fond memories of my Naked 3 palette. Like, listen, I was so excited for this palette. And it is light. It is so light. But I really enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun with it. I keep it for the memories, and the same with my original Naked palette. Like, oh, wow. It makes me happy, honestly, just to see it. Do I want to use it? No. It is so old, but I enjoy it. Like, I enjoy having it in my collection. And for me, I don't have to use every single palette all the time to enjoy it. Seeing this in my collection and this reminds me of a time. And when I am going through my collection looking for palettes, when I pull these out for videos like this, it makes me happy. And that, to me, that is the point of makeup, to bring me happiness, whether I'm using it or just looking at it. And having these in my collection, oh my gosh, like, I remember getting this at launch and just being so like, yes, I am a baddie. I have the Naked 3 palette, you know, like memories. Okay, here are all palettes that I have bought this year, I believe. So first up, we have these two from LA Girl. I did a video collaboration with my friend Allie Dawson, and she actually sent me these two palettes. I sent her some BH Cosmetics, and I used these. I was so excited Allie sent me these. I have, oh, this actually did not buy. This was sent to me from the brand. This is Different Cosmetics. This brand is a new brand this year. I am super excited to see what they're going to do in the future. This is a brand from M. Jones over on Instagram. We talk back and forth on Instagram, so I would definitely consider her like social media friend. It would be cool to meet her like in real life one day, but she's super talented at taking makeup photos and swatches and stuff. So anyways, when she told me she was starting her own brand, I was like, sign me up, because I knew whatever she did would be really good quality. And yeah, this palette, this is the Moth and the Moon. She has a really sweet story also about the inspiration for this palette and her sister, and I just recommend you go check it out if you're curious. A new independently owned brand. We know I love indie brands, and this is a beautiful color story. I like the packaging. I think it's simple while also being super pretty. Like, you see how that's, yeah, it shifts. We like that. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what the brand does next. I also have this e.l.f. palette. This was their collaboration with American Eagle. I have to say, like I talked about packaging that may be a little extra as long as it fits the theme. Like this having a tag like for denim, I love. I actually worked at American Eagle while I was getting my degree. I worked there for several years after I was first married, and while I was in college, I worked there, and I have great memories of working there and the people that I worked with. And so when they launched this palette, I was like, oh, I have to have this. This is a good palette. It's not a great palette. It's a good palette. I enjoyed it. I thought the shadows performed well. It's a good price point. I do think that ColourPop has a better formula if I'm looking at similar price points. Like, I would choose ColourPop over e.l.f. But I do think they did a good job with this. Again, it brings back like fond memories for me. I love that on the shadows we have the like denim embossing that they do on their jeans, like the embroidery, sorry. And I just, yeah, I thought this was a very unexpected release, but it was cool and fun, so I enjoy it. This is my first purchase from Elia Storm Cosmetics. This is the Under the Sea palette. I did do a video with this one, and I enjoyed this palette. I think they did a great job. I think the color story is super pretty. These shimmery shades are really fun. They're that kind of soft, squishy shimmer multi-chrome duochrome formula, and I like it. I think it's really nice. Definitely check out my video if you want to see more, but I think they did a good job with this one. I haven't seen the brand release anything else, but I'm definitely keeping my eye out for them. And Beaute Creations did a collaboration with Louis Castro. I had never tried the brand before, but when I saw this palette, I thought, you know what? Let me try it. Let me try it. And here we have this pink purple neutral color story. I thought this was a really smart color story, actually. I think there's kind of something for everybody. If you love color, if you love neutrals, it has you covered. If you like dark shades, if you like light shades, like there's a little something for everybody in this palette. And then the Serendipity palette. This was my first palette from Cara Beauty, or Cara. I'm so sorry. I don't know if it's Cara or Cara. I need to see if I can figure that out. This is a massive palette. I think this palette should have been maybe cut in half, maybe edited just a little bit, but I do think there is something fun about a large palette, having a lot of shades to choose from. I enjoyed testing and trying this palette out for sure, but the packaging gets me. I really, really love hummingbirds. I always have hummingbird feeders out in the summer. Yeah, I don't know. I love feeding my little hummingbirds. They make me happy. So I thought the packaging was so cute too. Okay, we've got a lot. We have got a lot. This is the Geology Cosmetics Pilbara palette. This is another Australian-based indie brand. Really, really pretty. I actually bought this palette. This shade right here is really beautiful topper type shade. And then they sent me their Wheat Belt palette. This is their new launch for this year. You can see we have the same shape packaging. This is really big though. I kind of prefer this smaller packaging. But for the Wheat Belt, we have this really pretty color story. I really like this. I like the inclusion of the blue. I think it works really well with those warmer shades as well as the greens. I like that we have the neutrals in here. I thought this was a cute palette. I do have a video on both of those. Let's talk about my DeDe Signatures palette. So this is the Pumpkin Spice Quad. So right, here we go. There we go. Can I open it? Yes, yay. So you can see we've got some beautiful shimmer, like duochrome shades in here. I really like the color selection. I think, I don't know, these shades all work together really beautifully. I like a good quad when it has a nice, like, thought out color story, and yeah, I enjoy it. So this is the Neutral Wonder palette. Wow, I'm running out of space here. Let me show you. This is the Neutral Wonder palette. So this is a warm neutral palette. Really pretty. I really like in this palette that we have very light shades in both matte and shimmer, and we have deep dark shades in both matte and shimmer. I like that. I feel like it's easy to get a complete look for me in a palette with this type of color story where it goes light to dark. So I like that. DeDe's Signature has beautiful, beautiful shimmers. So let me turn these around so you can see. These three palettes all launched this year. So DeDe Signature actually did take a break for a while. They're an independently owned brand, woman-owned brand, so they are back this year, and I'm so excited to see it. This is the Plum Perfection Quad. I do have videos on all three of these palettes from this year. I'm not sure about their older palettes, but yeah, these I definitely do, so very, very pretty. And then the Classic Autumn palette. Again, we have their beautiful shimmer formula. I like these shimmers so much. I have a tutorial up with this palette. I like that we have a black shade in here. I love the greens, like just really pretty. And then this is their newest launch, the Jingle Bell Ruby. I did upload a short here on YouTube. I also have TikTok and Instagram with this palette. This is their holiday palette or Christmas palette. I love their take on greens and reds with this one. You can see the beautiful shimmers both in the pan and the mirror. Their shimmers are just really, really, really pretty. I think they have a great shimmer formula. I really like this color story, and yeah, I'm so happy to see DeDe's Signature back in action. Let's look at my Tarte palettes, my True Blood palette. This palette, I have no idea how old this is. Very old. So this is when they collabed with True Blood. Like, can you see? This palette's been through it, okay? This palette has been through it. So, I mean, it's old. We have the shades. We have what brands used to do, printing the shade names on a plastic sleeve. And then this, like, the products are out, but there used to be, like, a mascara eyeliner in there, so it's supposed to be, like, a coffin. Isn't that cool? Okay, I thought it was cool. I think it's fun. And then I have the Man Eater palettes. So these look like laptops to me or something, the case. But this is a beautiful neutral palette from Tarte. I have other neutral palettes that I personally prefer, like from Lunar Beauty, GlamLite. Indie brands, they just do it for me. But I do think this is a beautiful palette, especially on the mainstream market that you can get from a Sephora, a Ulta. I think they even have it like QVC, like lots of retailers, you know. I thought the shadows in here performed really well. I didn't have issues with any of them. And there are different formulas in here. So not just shimmers, but some like really special metallics, some more sparkly shades. And the same with this year's version where they had, I think this is the Man-Eater Nightfall, sorry, Man-Eater Nightfall. I had to double check on that. But this color story I liked as well. We have more cool tones in here, and instead of the greens and yellows that we had in last year's palette, we have these kind of blue tones, really pretty. Again, if you're looking for a nice palette, you like this color story, you want to buy something at Ulta or Sephora, I think this is a great palette. I enjoyed it a lot. And I have Too Faced palettes as well. Let me show you. So this Cinnamon Swirl palette, first of all, listen, I love cinnamon rolls. I love cinnamon rolls. If I have an option to eat a cinnamon roll, a fresh one, okay? A fresh one, not one out of a package, like one just out of the oven, I'm gonna take it. I love. So I had to buy this. It's neutral. It's Too Faced quality. Too Faced, from what I have in palettes, I feel like it's consistent. It's nice. Is it my favorite? No, but I get beautiful looks with it, and faintly smells of cinnamon. Faintly. It doesn't have that strong smell that it had when it first launched. Let's see about the peach palette. Let me smell it. Yeah, I can still smell the peach pretty strong in this one. Pretty strong. And this is old. I got this when it like first launched. The hype was real. I really enjoyed this palette. I used it a lot, and I keep it for the memories, y'all. These, okay, let's talk about this. Let's start with the Italian Spritz, because I thought this was a good palette. I was excited to see some color from Too Faced. I know this still has a lot of neutral shades, but we have a pink, we have an orange, we have 2 blue shades, a gray, we have a purple shimmer, a purple matte, a yellow matte. Like, I was like, okay, half neutral, half colorful from Too Faced. And I thought the quality of this was really nice. It was that good, consistent Too Faced formula. This Cosmic Crush, I like, but it's not as good as the Italian Spritz. The packaging, though, they did great with that one. This, to me, is a good palette. It is good. But I found some of the shimmers to be a bit hard pressed, and it wasn't as good as the Italian Spritz palette. I like it, but I definitely feel like I would have changed maybe one of the mattes. There are a few mattes that are just a little too similar, and I think it could have made the palette more interesting had they swapped it up a little bit. But you know what? Too Faced did not call me and ask for my opinion, so I guess they don't care what I think. But I thought the palette was nice, just not my absolute favorite. So Game Beauty, let's look at Game Beauty. Again, I will pop my code on the screen, but I am pretty sure all of the palettes in this format, I don't know if they make these anymore, actually, but I bought this palette. This was my first palette I ever bought from the brand because I'd heard such good things about them, and I thought this color story was really cool. Now, ooh, hello, there's me. There's me. Let me get it to where you can see the shadows, though. I thought this was a cool color story, and I had a good experience with this. I thought these palettes were good. I enjoyed Game Beauty. I was like, okay, this is an indie brand to try. This is their like pastel-y palette, shimmers, mattes. This is the Victory palette. Let me show you. This one, beautiful neutral shades. This is their Cyber, what did I say? Is it Cyberpunk? Cyberpunk palette. Yes, sorry. I was like, when I said it, it didn't make sense. So I was like, let me double check. So these palettes I thought were good. I really enjoyed them. And then when we got to these palettes, this is where I feel like Game Beauty took it to the next level. They got even better, and now I'm like, okay, all right. So this is the Metaverse eyeshadow palette. Sorry, let me move these because they keep wanting to slip and slide. This palette, I was like, oh, okay, like this is really good. This is a beautiful, like, oh, saturated deep palette. I really liked this one a lot. And then we had this one that was super colorful. So this was their Phantom Thieves palette, super bright and beautiful. These palettes right here are so good. They did such a good job. Okay, so these are their Elemental palettes. We have this one right here. Beautiful. I do have a video swatching all of these. I have a video. I think I did 3 looks in my video, and then I do have 2 more tutorials on Instagram and TikTok. I don't know if they're here on YouTube or not, but they are in the short form content style. This is a beautiful neutral palette. I thought the neutrals they chose were really interesting. I like the mix. We have this one, this green palette, beautiful. I like the contrast in here. We have light shades, we have darker shades, we have some creamy type shadows, really, really beautiful. This one right here, I like as well. This one was probably, though, my least favorite color story because I think this one needed just a little more contrast. Like, had they made one of the shades like a almost black red with black sparkle, I think that would have taken this palette up a notch. And maybe like a white to red duochrome. I don't know. I like this one though. I like this one. There's nothing wrong with the quality. That's just my opinion on the color story. This one, phenomenal. If you were looking for a monochromatic purple palette, this one is absolutely beautiful. We go light to dark with this one. We have some cool tone purples and we have some more warm tone purples. They did a great job with this one. This whole like Elemental palette collection, Game Beauty really did a good job. Next, Netflix Sabrina. I love this palette. I think it's so fun. I think this is the best quality NYX has ever done. It makes me so happy to have this one. I also have the NYX Fate the Winx Saga. I actually did watch the show. I remember when I bought this, I was saying like, oh, I've never seen the show, blah, blah, blah. And I was editing my video and my husband was like, actually, Heather, like, we have seen that show. Do you remember? That's how forgettable the show is. I forgot I had seen the whole first season. Literally went to it on Netflix. I was like, I have never seen this show in my life. Clicked on it and then I was like, oh yeah, once it started playing. Pretty forgettable show, honestly. NYX Ultimate Utopia. I think this is a great palette from NYX. It's large, but the quality in here I think is really, really good. So I enjoy this one. Okay, let's talk about my Morphe palettes. I don't know why I keep this one, but I do. I don't want to get rid of it. I don't know why. I don't use it. Actually, I know why. I bought this palette. I spent my money on it, and I don't want to get rid of it. That's why. That's a good enough reason, right? This is the 35E palette, okay? This is how Morphe palettes used to look. Oh gosh. Okay, let's look. Let's look. The Jaclyn Hill Vault Collection. I actually received these as a birthday gift, I think. And all of mine performed super well. I have all of these. Let me see. That one. This was my personal favorite, the deep dark one. I had great time with those. This, I got this palette at launch. When it launched in, was that 17? I remember, like, the names weren't printed on them. You had a card like this. I have heard that this palette has since been reformulated, that it is not what you can buy anymore, but this was a great palette. This was a great palette. This is the Morphe Meredith Duxbury collab. I did buy this year, and it was my first time trying Morphe in years. So yeah, this one will definitely be in like a year-end ranking style video or something like that. So next up, we'll look at my Jolie Beauty palettes. I have bought all of these palettes except for 2, I think. Maybe 1. Maybe they only sent me one thing, actually, I think. Sorry, this is the Sirens palette. This palette launched this year. I did purchase this palette. I like this dark color story. I like that we have the multi-chromes. I know pressed glitters, it seems like people love them or hate them. I am not here to police you, to parent you, so you do what you want to do. But I do really like this color story. I think this is super beautiful. And then we have the Ethereality palette. Again, so pretty. Again, we do have the pressed glitters. We do have some multi-chromes there. You can see a little bit better there. And you can definitely see the multi-chromes in the mirror. That's fun. Another beautiful color story. I believe this was a spring launch for them. I love that it has the pastel shades and the deep shades. Zombified, this is a fun palette. This is the only palette I think that they sent to me, yes. So this is a full neon palette, you can see. I think it was genius to include a matte white and a matte black in this palette. I love that because it allows me to lighten up any shades that I want to or deepen up any shades that I want to. To me, that is important. So I really thought that was genius for a palette like this. For me, I mostly use this as a companion palette. But let me say, Sorceress was the first palette I ever bought from Jolie Beauty, and it's what made me really enjoy the brand. And then Vampirism came next. So for me, this was a no-brainer. I think these two palettes have the best formulas. There is something different about the multi-chromes in these two. I think it's because they're not quite as creamy as the other palettes, but for that reason, they last longer on my lids, and I just really enjoy. So this color story, this palette made me fall in love with the brand, and then they came out with Vampirism, and oh, we love her. I love the cool tones mixed with the warm tones. I just think this is a good one. So if you're looking at Jolie Beauty, all the palettes I have I really like, but these are the two that I would recommend the most. I have all three of What's Up Beauty's palettes. I like the Monsoon palette. It is pretty. We have neutral with some pops of color. Overall, What's Up Beauty does neutral palettes. I mean, they do neutral palettes with some pops of color. Like, not just a neutral palette, but kind of like neutrals with a twist, you know? So you see in here, like, we have our neutral shades, but we have those pops of shimmer. This is my personal favorite from the brand, and yes, I actually do keep this one in the box because I love it. I love it. I don't keep all the boxes for my packaging. I don't find that necessary unless it is something that I feel like warrants keeping a box, and that is this one. So this is the Dragon's Eye palette. This is their most recent launch. Again, this is a neutral leaning palette with pops of color, beautiful duochrome, multi-chromes. We do have a little pop of purple, but What's Up Beauty, they really like more of the soft color stories. So maybe we'll see something even more bold from them, but I have to say, if they want to do a second dragon palette, I wouldn't be mad at it. This is the only palette I have from Scott Barnes. We haven't seen a release from Scott Barnes in a long time. I've noticed his bronzer contour palette has been out of stock places for a long time. So I don't know what's going on with the brand. I don't know if they're just taking a break. I don't know if they're going to be closing down. I don't know. It's very curious. I haven't seen a release from them, but this is the only palette I have from the brand. I think this is really nice, but for it being the Color Bomb palette, I think there are too many neutral shimmer in here. These types of shimmers, I would prefer to have more neutrals than just the one. These colorful shades, I just feel like there could be more. I really think this palette needed to be rethought out, reworked. It's not my favorite, but I do keep it because I don't declutter things just to declutter. This is not a declutter video, in case you didn't catch that before, this is just a collection video. So even though this is not my favorite, I do keep it around. Okay, let's talk about Juvia's Place. This is the Culture 2 palette. This is the newest palette in my collection from Juvia's Place. I bought this palette. I thought the color story was so pretty, and I really like Juvia's Place. So this is the palette that I bought from Juvia's Place this year. And then let's look at my collection of Juvia's Place palettes. This is the Wahala palette. This one, I loved this palette, and I think it is beautiful. It does have pressed glitters in this palette, just FYI in case that bothers you. And we also have the Wahala 2. We have a beautiful multi-chrome in this palette, beautiful blues with these pinky peach tones over here. These two quads, in my opinion, the best from Juvia's Place. This is the Fumi and Melissa quads. I love these palettes so much. I wish they weren't limited and you could get them all the time. The Magic Mini from Juvia's Place. So this color story I really like. I just really like it. There's something very pleasing about it when I look at it. I just enjoy it. But the Tribe palette may be my favorite. I love the orange and that kind of like neon yellowy green, the olive undertone brown. I really enjoy that. The Garden of Juvia's is another beautiful palette that is pastels. And I think they did a good job with the pastels in this palette. We have some beautiful mattes and shimmer shades. And then we have the Saharan palette. This one is like interesting warm neutrals for me. I really like the shades that they chose. I think it works well together. Overall, it's just really pretty. All right, ABH. Let's talk about my two most recent palettes. These launched this year, the Cosmos palette, and then what was this one called? Fall Romance. So I really like this new format that ABH is doing. I think the quality of the shadows has been really nice. I enjoyed this one a lot. And the same with the Cosmos. I, again, like this format. And I think this is really beautiful. They gave us like a duochrome shadow. They gave us some dark shades, some light shades. I'm into it. And so that format kind of started, let's see, last year. So we have this palette here. This is the Nouveau palette. Really pretty. This one a little more muted, but we do have a nice dark shade. So I like that. This one, I feel like a lot of people really liked this. Rose Metals. I wanted to say Heavy Metals, but it's Rose Metals. So this one really pretty too. I do like the ones from this year even more, just more up my alley in terms of color story, but I like those two a lot. I know before that, let me see, they had this palette. This is the Primrose palette, and this had, whoops, this had face shades in it as well, and I'm glad they did not continue on with this format with the face shades. Of course, you can use them on the eyes if you would like, which is what I did because those two are not face shades that work for me. But then I have my kind of older format palettes. The Jackie Aina palette, I have to say, this is my favorite ABH palette ever. I just think Jackie did such a great job. Like, this palette, she killed it. Neutrals, color, we have deep shades, light shades. I love it. The Amrezy palette, probably my second most favorite ever. I love Amrezy. I find her so beautiful. Of course, well, I mean, she is beautiful. Everybody thinks she is. But I just think she's so, like, I don't know, just talented with makeup, and I felt like it really came through in her palette. We have the Carly Bible palette. She now has her own brand, but I did buy her collaboration palette with ABH. Very light shades, but very Carly. Of course, the Modern Renaissance palette. Oh, you see that pan, right? Like, yeah, she got used a ton. Then I have Soft Glam. Such a popular palette. So many people loved this palette. Even people that I know that weren't like super into makeup have this palette, enjoy it. So I have the Norvina palette, the first Norvina palette before Norvina was a sub-brand within ABH, and I really liked this palette. I thought this was a great one. The Master palette by Mario, of course, before KKW collab brand, before his own brand, we had the Makeup by Mario palette. Very neutral, very sultry, like red carpet type of palette. The Sultry palette, I thought this was a great cool toned neutral palette. Since these formats of ABH palettes, I do feel like eyeshadows has gotten even better. So although I don't really use these anymore, I just enjoy them. I like having them. The Prism palette, I really loved. This was like a limited edition holiday palette. It didn't get a lot of hype, and I don't know why, because I thought it was really cool. The Subculture palette, I bought this on launch day, and I was one of the people who did not have an issue with Subculture. It worked well for me. I really liked it, but I know there were some major issues with it. And then the only like ABH sub-brand Norvina palette I have is the very first one. And we haven't seen much from this brand since. I don't know if they're just keeping what they have. I don't know if they're going to be expanding. I don't know what's going on. Definitely a different formula from ABH, but I really like it. I only have 2 Hindash palettes. So I do have the original. These are made for like face and eye multi-use palettes. I thought this was nice. I bought this one as well. So this one is more pastels. I do prefer the first one more just because I get the idea of light sheer shades that can be used on the face or the eyes, but I don't think that really applies when you're talking about like purples and blues on the eyes. I don't like a sheer wash of blue. I want it to be Bam pigment. And while I can build it up, I just felt like this first palette makes a little more sense, although I do like both. I mean, obviously I keep both. They're for the face and eyes. They're different type of formula. We haven't seen anything from Hindash. That's another brand that I'm like, okay, are they gonna make some more products? Like, what's going on? Okay, we're getting into ColourPop, but I wanted to start with the palettes that came into my collection from ColourPop this year. Some of these I purchased myself, some were gifted to me. I like this palette. This was part of a holiday set this year from ColourPop. I do have a tutorial over on Instagram and TikTok. This is the Warm Wishes palette. I also just had this in a Get Ready With Me video. This is the Matte About Hue palette. I haven't got to dive into it completely yet, but I did enjoy it and I'm excited to keep using it. I bought the full Haunted Mansion collection because I love the movies. The ride is so nostalgic for me. So I did have to buy the Welcome Foolish Mortals palette. Alice in Wonderland, listen, I love a good Disney collab. I don't have to buy all the Disney collabs, but when I see one I like, I gotta have it. ColourPop actually sent this to me, but if they hadn't, I would have bought this myself because I need Alice. We have the Naruto palette. This one, really, really cool. And I wanted to show you here while we've got them out. I'll show you these side by side. I've got the Legend of Korra palette. Definitely the same type of vibe with the reds, the oranges, the blues, but definitely no like repeating shades. Definitely different tones in these, but I do see why people were thinking that they were so similar because they do have the same type of color story. And Snow White was the other Disney palette that came into my collection this year. I think it represents Snow White so well. ColourPop, this is years worth of ColourPop, y'all. We are just gonna jump in. This is the Raw Beauty Christie at First Sight palette. Such a gorgeous palette. We have, let me move these here. How about this so I can make it to where you can see these easier. Sonic Bloom. I wish this would have stayed around at ColourPop a lot longer. I thought this was a fabulous palette from ColourPop. The color story is beautiful with the light shades and the deep shades. We have some pretty shimmers. I wish they would have kept it around a bit longer. The same thing with Lush Life. This is one of the best palettes from ColourPop in my opinion. We have color, we have just enough neutral that you can create a warm neutral look if that is what you prefer to use the browns. And then there's also some fun color that pair really well with the more neutral leaning shades. Again, I think it's one of ColourPop's best. The Zodiac palette, Kathleen Lights and ColourPop. I hold on to this for the memories. I really like when Kathleen worked with ColourPop a lot. I have 3 of her palettes here. This is Dream Street. I believe this is the first one that they did together. I could be incorrect though. Don't hold me to it. So Jaded, of course, is my favorite that she did with ColourPop. This is one of the best palettes ColourPop ever did. I love the color story. I think it is kind of chaotic but also cohesive at the same time. When I go to create a look, I feel like I know exactly what I want to do. I really like this one. I wish they would bring it back, but of course it's a collab, so I know it's not always that easy. The Nightmare Before Christmas, I've seen several people say like, oh, I can't believe more companies aren't doing Nightmare Before Christmas for Christmas time, but I mean, ColourPop did that and they did their fun spin on it, and I really enjoyed this one. I thought the quality was super nice. We have the Barbie palette. This, of course, coming years and years ago. They did a great job with this one. I really enjoyed it. I thought the quality was great. The Mulan palette was one of my favorite neutral palettes for so long. ColourPop did a great job giving us different neutral tones, red shades, giving us different formulas. I really liked this one from ColourPop. This one is the Disney Designer Collection. So this one is actually called It's a Princess Thing. Sorry, I had to check the back. It's got that metallic background, so it's hard to show, but very pretty pinky neutral palette. Through My Eyes is the collaboration that they did with I Love Sarah E. Karen. She did a great job. This was one of my first purchases from ColourPop. I really was drawn to the color story, but Makeup Shayla really, I don't think this was my first ColourPop purchase, but it may have been my first palette from them. I can't remember. I feel like maybe it was before that. I don't know. What am I saying? This is beautiful though. Makeup Shayla, super talented. The Misunderstood palette from ColourPop. I really wish I had bought this whole collection. Honestly, I just didn't, and now I regret that. But I love this. I love all the shimmer shades. I think it's so beautiful, and the mattes that they chose I think work really well. Midnight Masquerade is another Disney Designer Collection palette. We do have a beautiful blue and green in here. I really like this one. I think that the artwork is super pretty as well. There you go. And have some of their bigger palettes. The Aurora Struck, I like this palette, but it could have been so much better in my opinion, because when we get down here, I feel like had they put in a deep dark purple, I would have liked that. There's just, it's so beautiful, but there's something missing for this one for me, but I do enjoy it overall. I think it's really pretty. I like the Play It Jewel a lot as well. These are the big mega palettes from ColourPop. I think this one is pretty, mix of a lot of neutral shades with some jewel tones thrown in there. Let's look at these stacks. I have the It's My Pleasure palette. I love this palette from ColourPop. I think they killed it with this one. The All Amethyst palette, I liked this one as well. Let me see, can I open it? I do prefer when ColourPop does this cardboard style packaging. I have all of their Star Wars palettes. So this one is the Mandalorian palette. I have the Child with Grogu, little Baby Yoda. I know that's not who he is, but I still love it. We have the Darth Vader palette, more cool tone shades. We have the C3PO palette. I like this palette more than I thought I did. Is it neutrals and gold tones? Yes, but I do think they chose some really pretty golds and different shades of gold, if that makes sense. I enjoy it, but the Sprinkle of Magic, the Tinkerbell palette, I really enjoyed this one. I wish it would have stayed around for longer. I really like every look that I created when I played with this palette. The quad over here, this one is really pretty blue shades. This is the Wait and See quad from ColourPop. The Witching Hour from ColourPop Hocus Pocus. I have the Gather Round Sisters palette. This is probably my favorite of the three, actually. I really love this one. And then this, probably my second favorite of the three. This was for the Hocus Pocus 2 movie. I really like the colors in here, and I like the quality as well. The Star Wars palette, the larger palette, this is amazing quality from ColourPop. One of my favorites from the brand. I really like the mix of reds and blues and neutrals, and I think there are some good textures and formulas in here. Again, it's in that nice cardboard type packaging that ColourPop does. The Sailor Moon Pretty Guardian palette. I have memories. I have good memories of getting this palette. Actually, my husband went to Ulta for me because I had worked the night before on night shift, and so he went to Ulta at Open and snagged that one for me, and I love it. This is the Not a Box of Chocolates palette. ColourPop sent me this palette, and I was excited because it's a large neutral palette, and so many people loved this, so I was really excited to try it for myself, and I think the quality in this one is really great. Let's talk Beauty Bay palettes. This is the only palette that I've bought this year from Beauty Bay. I'm a little shocked. The shimmers in here are beautiful. We have some nice like duochromes, some nice really sparkly shades, but I wish there would have been a few more mattes, but this is a really great palette, great formulas. Okay, let's go through these Disney palettes. These Disney palettes I love. They are shades pulled directly from the movie, so I think this is really, really special. 1941 Disney Color Dumbo palette. Tones from the movie, like I see it so clearly. This is the 1951 Disney Color Alice in Wonderland. The quality of this is great. Like, they really did a great job with this matte formula. This again, 1951. I'm sorry, did I say 61 earlier? Let's see, 1951, Alice in Wonderland. Let me go back and correct myself, because if not, it's gonna bother me. So these are shades directly taken from the movies, and I think that's fun. If I said the year wrong on Dumbo, I'm so sorry, 1941. And then we get to 1942. This is Disney Color and Bambi. I love Bambi, such an underrated Disney movie, right? So really, really pretty. Good companion palettes is what I use these for. This is 1967, The Jungle Book. I see those tones so clearly in the movie. This one may be my favorite of their Disney 6 pans. Really, really love those. But let's talk about these larger palettes. This palette right here, the Beauty Bay and Jade palette. I think because it was so large, it deserved more hype. It deserved more hype. This palette is great. Every single shade in here is great quality. I really like this palette. If you split it in half and look at the top 3 rows and the bottom 3 rows, they could be 2 separate palettes. I don't mind them being all in one. I do feel like had they split them in 2, maybe more people would have been willing to try them. I think sometimes a big palette can be overwhelming. It can be super fun for like me. I don't mind. I am inspired by chaos, but I do think sometimes it can just be a little overwhelming. I like the mix of neutrals in with the color. Overall, I just think this is a great palette. It's a rainbow palette kind of with a twist, and I do really enjoy that. These 3 palettes are monochromatic palettes. They launched last year, I believe, from Beauty Bay. This is the Midnight palette. They had a smaller version and they had a larger version. I just got the ones right there in the middle. The Berries palette, super pretty with this one. Again, these are monochromatic. Earthy, of course, with the beautiful green shades. Gorgeous. And then we get into Beauty Bay when they were doing this format of palettes. This is probably my favorite format that they do when they're in this 20 pan. They're this size. I just think it's so nice. Absolutely hate the packaging on Age of Opulence. I get that it's supposed to be like this not for me, but I don't care because look at this color story. This was, I believe, like around holidays when it launched. Makes total sense. It's very gorgeous glam. We have the new Mood palette, super bright and colorful. I like this one as well, really, really pretty. And the new Romantic palette was a Valentine's Day palette, maybe in 2021 or maybe, yeah, I think 2021. I can't remember. Sorry. Y'all don't care. Why am I trying to tell you years? Very pretty. The Wilderness palette, one of my favorites from the brand. I just really like this color story. I think they did a great job with this one. I do get Wilderness vibes from it. Super good quality. This one was gone too soon from this world. Let me say that, because Book of Magic is amazing. I know they kept it around for a while. I'm pretty sure it went on sale and stuff, but you know, when I have something that I really love, I just want it to be around forever, and I know that's not always possible, but I love this one. This is beautiful. This is the palette that made me fall in love with the Beauty by Eyeshadow formula. And then we have Dark Fantasy. Okay, Dark Fantasy. I really like this one as well. I love green and purple together, so you have that in there. You got me sold. And then you have some brown shades. Beautiful. Love it. So into these. I wish Beauty Bay would do more of these. They only bought one this year and it didn't tempt me too much. Let's all shed a tear for BH Cosmetics because we haven't had any great palettes from them in a long time. So I'm just going to quickly run through these with y'all. I know some of these are still available and some of these are not. So let me clear off space and we will quickly go through these. Now listen, these Birthstone palettes, there was one released every single month on the first of the month. I loved buying them. I thought the quality in them was great. I'm not about to sit here and sort them by month. We're just going to go through them together. April is Diamond. I thought this was a smart take on Diamond. January, Garnet. I liked this one, but I feel like they got even better from here. Turquoise for December was such a pretty turquoise palette. All of these do have a pressed glitter. The pressed glitter shade is trash. I don't think all pressed glitter is created equal. Some is better than others, and this was really terrible pressed glitter quality, but you know, the other shades made up for it. This is Pearl. I thought this was a beautiful palette for Pearl. Aquamarine for March. I also liked this one, although it wasn't my personal favorite, I don't think. Opal for October was a pastel palette. This is a great companion palette. Peridot for August. Love, love, love. The quality of these shadows is so good. Citrine for November was another favorite. I really like these tones of yellow and copper with the browns. I think it's beautiful. Ruby for July. They went more like pinky reds with this one. Amethyst for February. Really, really pretty, although I wish there was like a deep, deep dark purple. Sapphire for September, my birthstone right here. This was a favorite. Not just because it's my birthstone, but look at the color story. It's absolutely gorgeous. Although Emerald for May. Talk Emerald to me because these green shades, oh yeah, we love them. These palettes right here, the packaging is so boring. Some people don't care about packaging, but I think these would have gotten more love had their packaging not been so, we gave it to an intern, an unpaid intern at that. Like surely nobody was paid to make this. Surely an imposter came in and was trying to sabotage BH. You know what? This packaging is responsible for BH going bankrupt. That's what I'm going to say. Is it true? No, but this packaging is not good. You know what I'm saying? Do not disturb the quality inside. If you can put the packaging aside, like I did, the quality of these shadows, freaking fantabulous. Low key love you. This more warm red shade with the warm neutrals. Beautiful. Optimistic AF. Fall in a palette, right? And then we have looking like a snack. I kind of favor this one, honestly. There's something about the pink and the black and the silver together. It's cool. It's cool. Let's get into these. So Paris, Passion in Paris. This one, Are you my favorite BH palette ever? Yes. Yes. The title goes to you. I love the quality, amazing. Puerto Rico, right? Party in Puerto Rico. Beautiful. A little more on the basic side, but very pretty. On Morphe, this was their neutral palette, more in Morphe. Pretty. I do like the gold tones in this one. The quality is amazing. Let me see. Lost in Los Angeles, also with the Destination palettes. This is a great pastel palette. If you want a drugstore pastel palette, you just want to try out pastels, see what you think. This is amazing. If it wasn't drugstore, if this was a high-end palette, I think it's amazing. It's great. I have I think these were the brunch palettes. Let's see. Mimosa. Beautiful. The quality in these, so great. The avocado toast. Greens. Of course, I love this one. But I do feel like the best of the three is the blueberry muffin palette. I think the tones in here, really pretty. There's something super nice about having a little bit of silver with the blue, with the really warm browns, with a little bit of gray thrown in there. I don't know. I thought they did a great job on this one. I do have both of the Carly Bible palettes. Oh, your girl was loving this one. Your girl was loving this one. I loved it. My sister-in-law bought this palette because I loved it so much, and she hated it. So I don't know what's up with that, because I loved this one. And my sister-in-law is good at makeup, like personal preference, I guess. I don't know. This is the larger palette that she came out with. I really liked the highlighters in here. I thought she did a great job. This is one of BH's best palettes also. This is the Naughty palette. This was one of their Christmas palettes. Every single shade in this palette is great. I've got palettes everywhere. Every single shade in this palette is great. There are 2 pressed glitters in here. I don't really care for those, but the rest of the shadows are beautiful. You see there's even like a duochrome in here. Just great quality from BH. Let's quickly talk about the Sweet Shop, because these two, some of my favorite palettes ever. I think BH did phenomenal. So we have the Sugar Cone palette. I was going to say, if you want a neutral palette, but I don't think this is available anymore. The Cherry on Top palette, though, when I tell you the quality of this palette is insane, like, it is so good. If you told me this was a $50 palette, I would be like, okay, cool, take my money. The Bubblegum palette, the blue palette, really great quality as well. Sorry, I've been talking way too long. The Pistachio palette, beautiful green shades. We have the Orange Sorbet palette, beautiful oranges. And then we have the Cotton Candy. This is the only one that was a little, like, not monochromatic. We actually had purples and pinks. And if you line these all up together, like, they go together and they will form one ice cream cone, which, listen, that is so well thought out. And then they gave us this. The creators of this gave us this. Okay? You know, like, discrepancies. All right, I really hope you enjoyed seeing my collection. It's always fun to kind of sort through, reorganize, get everything together. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I will see you very soon in another video. Make sure to subscribe because I have so much coming. Bye.